to the idea of America breaking up or staying together. What about the polling? What's it saying about President Trump's first 100 days? How does the general public feel about President Trump's 100 days? Well, Mark's been taking a poll of that issue. Let's also talk about striking Iran. What is that going to mean if we do strike Iran? Because we got guys out there like Mark Levin and others that seem to be, in my opinion, they seem to be really begging for it. I want to talk to Mark Mitchell about that a little bit, but I also want to talk to Usama Dakdok, born and raised in Egypt, an expert on Islam. What would happen if America were to strike Iran? What would happen? What would happen right here on the American soil? And do people like Mark Levin understand this? In fact, we have coming in from the airport, he should be here, Aaron Lavarco, our reporter from Israel, who's in the U.S. doing a tour, was with us a few weeks ago at the Waukesha Expo Center, speaking at our Worldview rally. Do you know that fires are breaking out all over Israel tonight? Aaron's going to give us a report. There are strong indications this is terrorism, and it looks like it might end up being the largest fires in the history of Israel. They're asking other countries to come in and help them. What does Usama Dakdok think would happen to America on our soil if we hit Iran, which some guys seem to be so cavalierly calling for? We'll talk about that. And Mark Levin says we got to do this to prevent them from getting the bomb. Mark, they already have the bomb. I'll get to that later. So we got Mark Mitchell, we got Aaron, Usama, and then Dr. Thorpe. Dr. Thorpe is going to come out. Let's talk to Dr. Thorpe about a letter that's been sent by Ed Martin, the acting U.S. District Attorney for Washington, D.C. Ed Martin has sent a letter to the DOJ related to misinformation and real disinformation, bias, I should say, when it comes to the facts about reporting on COVID and COVID shots, etc. And I'm going to give you the phone number tonight for why you all need to be calling your U.S. senators to asking them to confirm Ed Martin as the permanent U.S. District Attorney for Donald Trump for Washington, D.C. All right? Big show tonight. Now, before we get to all that, I love my viewers. They're so nice to me. This has been sent by Teresa and her husband, and I can't tell from the handwriting if his name is Craig or if it's Greg, but I know her name is Teresa. I can make that part out. They sent me a beautiful note, April 23rd, 2025, and they sent me this. And I think her husband makes these. I'm pretty sure he does. Commit thy works unto the Lord, and thy thought shall be established. Commit thy works unto the Lord, and thy thought shall be established. Beautiful. Proverbs 16, verse 3. They also sent me this one right here. Ulysses S. Grant. There are but two patriots now. There are but two parties. Learn to read, House. There are but two parties now. Traitors and patriots. That's pretty good. I think these should go down in our control room, Logan. We should put these in control room number 2. Those would look good down there in control room number 2 with all those historic photographs. So that's tonight. Teresa and her husband sent those to me. And I think he made those. He's obviously very, very gifted. So I want to thank those kind people, that sweet couple, for that. All right. I also remind you, we leave for Washington, D.C. on Friday. And we, of course, are excited about many of the interviews that we have set up, many of the sites we have paid the money to film at, and permits, places we haven't even mentioned, but we won't mention because we don't want people disrupting what we're going to be doing and filming and creating problems. So we're going to mention it after the fact. Some places are going pretty well, like under cognito. We're going low key and just go film and collect great footage and historical stuff. Some of it's going to be cool. I was even telling Logan today about one place we're going. He didn't even know. We're going to film at. And then we're going to come back and we're going to present a lot of it to you and put it into short documentary, some of it. And some of the broadcasting we'll be doing from there, we'll be sharing with you either live some of it live, and we'll tape it up and then bring it to you that evening. So we got a lot to do out there, but we need your support. Last night I challenged some of you. Can you go to worldviewfoundation.com and help us with the cost of going out there to get out there, bring the film crew, the motor coach, the driver, the permits, the lodging, all it takes? Can you do $250? Can you do $500? Can you do $1,000? A couple of you, yeah, I saw at least 200 to $500 donations. So thank you for that. And you guys join us in helping us cover not only our normal support we need to bring in each month, but a little more this month for this special project, 8 days of traveling. We'd love to be able to do more of this. We really would. But we got to cover our expenses. We have to be very careful, folks. We're very frugal here. We try very hard to be frugal and to be careful so we can keep a very healthy network and keep going because you count on us. So we like to do more of this, but we got to cover our cost and at least doing this one first before we talk about others. So please consider going now to Worldview Foundation. And remember, we are here for education and public service and ministry broadcast as well. Remember, we have a church service I do every Sunday night. I'm teaching through the book of Revelation. I finished up with Revelation chapter 14 on Sunday night. And when I get back after our trip, I'll pick it up with Revelation, Lord willing, Revelation chapter 15, verse 1. I'm having a great time teaching through this. So again, please go right now if you can, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Make a contribution of any size, but some of you could do $250 tonight. Boom, right there. $500 right there. Wouldn't take much. Some of you guys step into the plate and doing that. Now, if you're already supporting us, I want to thank you. I want to thank all of you that are already supporting us. But if you are not and you can, or you want to do a little extra this month, we'd appreciate it. Thank you. Worldviewfoundation.com. But all of you can pray for us, for our trip, for safety, for good health, good weather. That way we can be outside. For a lot of the filming we're doing is going to be outside. So good weather, safe travels, good health, and also pray for providentially pray for doors to be opened, okay? I can tell you when we get back, some people we've put in for interviews, and, you know, obviously you're thinking of the obvious ones. He's probably put in to try to interview President Trump or J.D. Vance or those kind of things. Well, those are all the obvious ones, right? We have put in for some interviews with some people that you probably would not guess, all right? I could open the phone lines up, and I don't think any of you would guess. But when you hear, you would go, oh, that would make sense that he would try to interview that individual. That makes sense that he would try to do that. So we have been working with some people trying to coordinate schedules, and there's so much going on in the world that's so fluid, let's say, that a lot of them schedule are changing by the hour. So anyway, we'll see what the Lord does, but pray that the Lord providentially opens doors this next week. Not only the interviews we have scheduled, which I think those have been amazing, but the providential doors that have yet to open so we can maximize our time and investment in this trip and come back with some great educational, informative, historical, and encouraging programming. It'll be fun. And I'm gonna be excited to share with you some of it. And I will be sharing with you pretty quick when we get to DC where we stopped between Memphis and DC. I'll be sharing with you a few places we stopped and some footage we picked up. And you're gonna go, okay, I wanna see that footage. That's pretty cool. So we'll do that. But help us make it possible because you make all this possible and we're doing it for you, okay? You guys know I kind of like staying in the studio and the comfort of my studio and my normal routine. I mean, why would I not? I got a beautiful studio. And I got my dog laying at my feet. There she is. She's right. You can't see her. I don't think we can see that shot. Yeah, you can. Look at that. There she is. I mean, this is great. I know my schedule is pretty much the same every day. I like routine. Dolly likes routine, but most pets, most dogs like routine. But, you know, I'm going to get outside the comforts of my studio. I'm going to go do this. And my family knows that I don't generally like going out of the studio and doing much traveling anymore. I did a lot of that. But I am excited to show you guys some special places and get this programming that will be really timeless. A year from now, 2 years, 5 years from now, there'll still be great historic footage and educational for your kids and your grandkids, maybe your great-grandkids. But I'm also excited to show the younger generation a lot about our country they need to know, right? And Logan's going to see a lot of this for the first time because the last time he was there, I think he was just a few months old. So he's going to see it now as a 22-year-old. And this is really who we need to be doing this for, right? Parents, grandparents, you get it, right? So let's pray that it'll be a great trip and a lot of great things will come from it. All right. So worldviewfoundation.com. Hey, another great way you can support us, of course, is Bella Grace. You know I take it each and every day. It's a powerful elixir loaded with 3 powerful ingredients. Collagen, cat's claw, and that's an anti-inflammatory, and astaxanthin. And Melissa loves the skincare. She loves the Bella Grace weight management. It's all natural. Great for your cardiac health. Check it all out, melissahousebg.com, melissahousebg.com. Joining me now is Mark Mitchell, lead pollster at Rasmussen. He joins us now. Mark, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, really great to be here. Busy week.
Yeah, isn't it though? Okay, so let's get right to it, because you have been talking about a potential civil war in America, something we don't want to see happen, but something as though it seems the Dems are really pushing for, no doubt about it. I know you have some polling on this. Before I play a clip by the governor of Illinois, he's out again, he's saying, I'm calling for disruption. I got, again, a couple of clips I want to play, but I want to have you set this up. Are you seeing a trend in elected officials calling for disruption or things that could be deemed as setting the stage for basically a breakup of the union?
Well, what we've been measuring is public opinion about political violence and divisiveness over the last decade plus, because it becomes, listen, like 20 years ago, people were politically divided. It was all talk, though, about red team versus blue team and the 49.9% red people versus, you remember the hanging Chad and how everything came down to a couple hundred votes. But there's something very different. It's more about like an ideological war, and the way that all of these levers of power have been weaponized by the establishment to fight that, including people's brains. And so there's been a lot of concerns about, the utter difference in the issue set between left-wing media consumers and right-wing media consumers. So what we've seen is, when we ask the question, how likely is it that we'll see a civil war in the next few years, that number's been going up. It's been going up to the mid to low 30s, up to 43%, which is the last time we asked it. Not a great number for over 4 in 10 U.S. likely voters saying, yeah, we're probably going to be shooting at each other in a couple of years.
4 in 10. 4 in 10 voters in America. So 40% of the country believes that. 43%
at least somewhat likely. And I'm pretty sure the not at all likely is in the 20. So that's not a vote of confidence. Right?
Wow.
And then this fall in the question of, if Kamala Harris wins, how likely is it that there will be political violence? Or if Donald Trump wins, how likely is it there will be political violence? And it was a majority of both sides, but actually slightly more Democrats said that there would be violence if Kamala Harris won, because they've been convinced that MAGA are violent extremists. But that number was almost 6 in 10. Almost 6 in 10 Democrats thought that basically your Proud Boys would be shooting people in the street if Kamala Harris won, I guess. And then we have new numbers that haven't even been released yet. When you think about the overall tone and civility in American politics over recent years, do you feel the level of civility has gotten better or worse or stayed the same? 12% better, 72% worse. And actually it's 19% of Republicans bringing the better result up, because the Democrats aren't in power, right? So Democrats, it's 80% to 10% worse to better, and independent 75% to 7%. So everybody knows things are getting worse, but we have to remember that this comes after 4 years of Joe Biden, who ran on civility and uniting Americans. Yeah, I think a lot of people probably voted for him thinking that he would do that, and obviously he never intended to.
Mm-hmm. And here's the governor of Illinois who played it, but it bears playing again. Here's the governor of Illinois.
Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption, but I am now.
They cannot know one moment of peace. Wow. Again, all right. Well, there you go.
Yeah. I couldn't get over the way he said the word mass. I was just thinking of mask when I looked at him. But anyways, I think what's happening is, we've talked about the Democrats. There's a vacuum. There's a leadership vacuum. And so the people who, I hesitate to say the word sane, or the people that have the interests of Americans at heart, but the people who have predominantly been the Democrat leaders are nowhere to be found. Remember, Chuck Schumer, they wanted that guy kicked out of office for working with the Republicans on the debt ceiling deal. And if he posts anything on Twitter, he gets ruthlessly ratioed. So I think anybody with something to lose is being quiet right now. And what you have is a whole lot of people with nothing to lose. You have AOC, Bernie Sanders, you have Jasmine Crockett, and you have this guy. And what they're trying to do, I think, is just capture as much attention as possible. And the way you do that is you appeal to your loony bins, the ones who are most vocal, your Reddit users, your people on Blue Sky. And that's what they're going after. They're all doing it different ways. AOC is sort of like, hero worshiping Luigi Mangione. Bernie Sanders is calling for like a communist economy. And this guy's talking about civil disruption. And it's like, okay, well, we knew Democrats would use this. They love to have a victim, right? And so the current victim du jour apparently is illegal alien gangbangers. And they just want something that they can have the higher, moral authority on. And it's, we're really worried about these people's civil rights. And that, I'll tell you, the polling tells you that those are not majority opinions. They're like 15% opinions. How important is it to deport illegal immigrant violent criminals? Only 4% of people say not at all important. And that appears to be the market he's going after. So I don't think it's going to work for them in the aggregate for Democrats. I think, again, this is all on Republicans to lose. You still have establishment Republicans apparently fighting Trump at every step of the way behind the scenes. And you have Democrats in complete and utter disarray. Their front runner, Kamala Harris, is laughable right now, and she really is the front runner. So it's not to say they won't find their issue.
Kamala Harris is their front runner still?
Oh, yeah, sure. 100%.
And
we just
she's
asked
really thinking about doing it again. She's thinking about running again.
Oh, I don't know if she's thinking about running. They're in this really weird position where Kamala Harris leads among Democrats in the polling. Last time we asked it, we gave them 5 or 6 names. Kamala Harris got 40% of the Democrat vote. The next highest was like your Newsom's at 11%. I think Whitmer was somewhere around 10. AOC was under 10 at 8%. And so Kamala Harris leads the polling, but if you look at the betting markets, you have people like AOC leading. So people who will not win in the polls. Now, will people change their mind and support her? Maybe to a larger extent than Kamala Harris, but probably not. I think there's a lot of people who are just probably like never AOCs. But yeah, so that all has to get worked out somewhere, somehow. And we'll see. The current plan for them appears to be the same kind of circular firing squad that they've had in the past. And everybody will just take swipes at each other. And then there will probably be a deal made behind the scenes and the establishment person will get anointed again. That's probably what's going to happen. And I don't know. The same old Democrat tricks, but that's kind of where they're stuck right now.
Let's look at what Stephen Miller said on the White House sidewalk the other day about the governor of Illinois.
Governor Pritzker just called for mass protests and disruption, saying Republicans cannot know peace, while Trump's border crossings are down 95% and ICE is locking up 800 criminals. Is Pritzker inciting insurrection, and will DOJ take action?
Well, what I would say is that his comments, if nothing else, clearly could be construed as inciting violence. So President Trump survived 2 assassination attempts against his life. Of course, there's been many more credible threats against President Trump and his family and associates. We've, of course, seen the spate of left-wing domestic terrorism all across this country. By the way, the destruction of property sits directly adjacent to attacks on humans and physical attacks. In other words, once you tolerate and once you allow for attacks on property, you're just a step away from people throwing Molotov cocktails into people's homes.
He's absolutely right. We've been using a phrase here for years: marginalize, characterize, terrorize. Marginalize, characterize, terrorize. But I'll take another step further. Then you legalize the terrorizing of your political enemies. We saw this happen under Nazi Germany. Marginalize, characterize, and then they passed laws that allowed for the terrorizing of the Jews, right? And now we see, it seems as though in many of these red states, they want hate crime laws that will shut down free speech, will prosecute people that speak the truth about the LGBTQ agenda or Islam. Let's go after them. Let's terrorize those speaking truth and then legalize really using the weaponization of the state to terrorize people. And what is lawfare if not legalized terrorizing of someone? I mean, when you're threatening to throw them in jail, right, arrest them, throw them in jail, take all their stuff with punitive damages and fines, it's the state being used as a weapon of terror.
Yeah, social destabilization, of course. And that was just, collateral damage in order to try and get their political opponent out of the race, and they don't care. And that's because, it's this collectivist mentality, right? If you really step back and look at where we're at, right? There's economic war with China. We have a situation where our biggest trading partner is believed by half of America to be our biggest enemy as well. Then you have a proxy war, like a Eurasian proxy war with the globalist NATO people. Then you have this information war going on. You have all of these things playing out in all of the other European countries with people coming in and knifing folks, and yet they're throwing people on social media in jail. I think it's a war between individual agency and collectivism, okay? And if you look at things like Nazi Germany, Hitler, his reign, the kind of things he wanted to do and the things that the Nazis did once they got into power are only really possible by collectivists. It's really only possible because they were dehumanizing people and shooting people and committing genocide and making people starve. Like, it was bad. And their supporters were all for that, right? And that's not what I think the MAGA people want. I think they want economic freedom and to be left alone and to have their First Amendment rights. So there's no way the Democrats are going to get on the right side of America here because unfortunately for Democrats, even though the country's relatively 50-50 electorally, the First Amendment, like all of these things are still 70-80% positions among Americans. Like, it is ultimately what it comes down to. And so that's the reason they have to brainwash so many people. But you have about 20 or 30% of the country that this J.D. Pritzker stuff is going to appeal to. That's who he's speaking to. And look, Stephen Miller's talking about it on the White House lawn. So it has been effective getting Pritzker's name out. They probably love him on Reddit right now. I was looking it up. He's getting all kinds of votes. And that's because, about 20-25% of the country, they do want people shot. We asked people, is Luigi Mangione cowardly act of terrorism, that murder a cowardly act of terrorism, or was it an understandable response to the high cost of health insurance in America? And, like almost half Democrats said it's understandable. And then other pollster asked, well, would it have been better if the assassin in Butler, PA had not missed Donald Trump? 28% of Democrats say yes. We had in the 20s as well saying that vandalism in Tesla dealerships is an acceptable form of protest. That's the people who are being appealed to right now, and everybody knows it. Everyone knows it. They're trying to use cute words. They're trying to hide it. They're trying to they're LARPing communist revolutionaries. That's what's going on in Democrat circles right now. And people could say no, 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 and maybe that's not what's blasted out on MSNBC, but go look at Blue Sky. Go look at Reddit. Go look at their liberal echo chambers. Those are the people driving the narratives, and they are not mentally healthy.
Oh, that's for sure. What about World War III? What are your thoughts? Are we going to be able to avoid World War III, or do you think the globalists, the Europeans, NATO are pushing for it, and how do Americans feel about it?
Yeah, that's a tough one. And so the polling, listen, Americans are very easily manipulated, let's just say, on the topic of war. And so a lot of people hate Putin. They don't like the invasion that happened in Ukraine. And at the onset of that particular skirmish, they really wanted America to support Russia, including a pretty big support Ukraine against Russia, including a pretty big portion of people that wanted boots on the ground. More liberals than conservatives, believe it or not, which is interesting for them supposedly having recently been the party of peace. And we've asked the same kind of questions about things like China and Taiwan. And also, you have a number in the 30s there who say, if China invades Taiwan, we should probably put boots on the ground. So there's an aspect of some Americans want this, and they're very still susceptible to the dogmatic aspects of patriotism and fighting as the U.S. world police.
Wait a minute. Isn't that a problem, though? The fact that we somehow have confused patriotism with interventionist wars and things that have nothing to do with our own national sovereignty or our own national security, but we somehow think fighting wars over there is tied to patriotism. Now, I feel for the people of Taiwan. We sent a reporter to Taiwan at great expense before the elections of who they have now for their president, who I'm very thankful they got. We heard from some of the folks on the ground in Taiwan. They want liberty. They want freedom. Many of them are like Americans. They're patriotic people that want to be an independent island. But I'm not willing to risk a war with China or all of our chips being shut down before we can manufacture them all here, or any kind of war with China over Taiwan. There's not the overriding national interest for that. But isn't it a sad commentary, Mark, that many people associate patriotism with fighting wars halfway around the world?
Yeah, I mean, patriotism is one of the first things that you'd weaponize if you were wanting to, use the reins of power for self-enrichment or for your own personal political gain. And we know that happened. We absolutely know that happened all over the place, including not that recently. But the problem is I'm a pollster and I look for signals of public opinion. And all I can do after I see a signal is try to make inferences and try and come up with some kind of scenario that explains it. And what I can tell you is that there's really strong signals on things like, well, we need better jobs. We need to get rid of illegal aliens. Censorship is bad. It's bad when you weaponize the justice system. And those are things that Americans very clearly see, between 60 and 80% of them, right? Cheating in elections, super bad. We shouldn't do that. People should go to jail if they steal, those things. Violent criminals, we shouldn't release them. Then all of a sudden, when you start asking questions like, well, what should we do in the Middle East? It gets really confused. It's really hard to pick out signals. And you can see sort of trends. And it's like, well, Republicans like Israel a little bit better than Democrats, that kind of stuff. And you say, well, why is that? And there's an aspect of decades of military worship. Got to be honest with you. Not that long ago, we had a scenario where 80% of people supported a president who was bringing us to war in a foreign nation. That happened not that long ago. And then you have to look around then on a daily or nightly basis. I just listened to talk radio not that long ago, and I won't say who I was listening to, but I'll have to tell you, in discussion of the potential attack by Israel on Iran and whether or not the U.S. would support them, I heard a lot of the same words that I heard back in 2003, I can tell you that. A lot of things like, oh, well, they're going to get us, so we have to get them first, a whole lot of stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so Americans are always constantly being assailed and assaulted by this, and those topics are, it's...
Well, you'll hear that. You're not naming names, but I will. But you hear Mark Levin doing this nonstop. Mark Levin does this nonstop on social media, on his broadcast, on his show, nonstop. Now, we have a reporter on the ground in Israel. I'm a very strong Christian Zionist, but I have to be consistent. I am not for putting boots on the ground in the Middle East or in Israel. I can be for the Jewish people without agreeing with everything the Israeli government does, and I don't agree with everything the Israeli government does, but I am not willing to spill our blood and treasure to go to war over there. Israel is a very strong country. We can sell them stuff. We can sell them technology, sell them jets. I think they rip most of our avionics out and put in their own. They have the Samson. I don't think they'll go that route, but they have the Samson. They are capable, with some support from us, to defend themselves in exchange for them helping us with intelligence, which they do, and other things that are obviously above my understanding or, pay grade. But we have to be consistent. We don't need boots on the ground over there. And these guys like Mark Levin and others that keep pushing, again, maybe that's how you get where you get with some of these guys, is you got to sing the song and the dance of the military-industrial complex, and that's how you get on certain broadcast platforms and outlets, because you're really just a mouthpiece for the CIA and their global wars. That's just a question.
Well, you're bringing up 100% my view and opinion, and it actually wasn't Mark Levin. And believe it or not, there's multiple circles pushing this. So it's like, my point is, a lot of people are saying it, and not just on talk radio, too, on very prominent conservative online establishment. I would say, are talking these very same pro-Zionist things. But the way I see it is that if we're going to commit American sons and daughters, including potentially my sons in the not too distant future, to die in a foreign battlefield, we should be really clear-eyed and objective about all of the potential interests involved. Okay. And I think that I'm not picking any countries out at all. I'm just saying I think that that's a really great way to look at the world, especially because I think we'll find in retrospect in Ukraine and Russia, we were probably killing people for a very, very, very long time because we weren't acknowledging the situation that one of the people involved over there is very intransigent on certain topics, is very unwilling to actually negotiate in good faith. And that's on us for supporting that person. That's on us. And I think Trump's probably doing the right way, is saying, well, we tried. Kill him now. And that's the way you deal with somebody that can't be dealt with, right? And I hope that that isn't what happens. I hope that they resolve quick peace there. But again, think about like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people died over the last couple of years, while everybody's sitting on their couches playing Candy Crush on their phones, and they're flying like, grenades and dropping them on kids, essentially. And, well, maybe not kids, 25, 30-year-old, in a muddy field in Eastern Europe. And everybody on NATO is like, yeah, this is cool. We want this to happen. This is better for all of our interests. It's sick, really freaking perverted.
Mm-hmm. And again, not picking on Mark, but here he is at the Western Wall. And he's saying that Iran must never get nuclear weapons. Period. Well, I'm sorry, Mark. The early 2000s are calling. And they would like to inform you that Iran has had the bomb for a long time. Okay, you should know this. You interviewed after we did, so you got our leftovers. But you interviewed Peter Vincent Pry, the former CIA analyst, whose show I produced from this desk, whose radio show I produced every week up until about 3 weeks before he died, okay? And Peter, you interviewed him, Mark, after I did, and promoted him on a national level. I'm sure that's how you saw him, or maybe from the Washington Times. But you interviewed him more than once, Mark, and I'm sure you had conversations with him off the air. And Peter Pry is well known for saying on our broadcast that we produce for him, there's evidence Iran already has the bomb. So you stand there and say they should never get the nuclear weapon. Okay, either you are really not real bright, in my opinion, or they already have it and you're just stirring it up. So this is the same guy that was screaming like he was having a hysterectomy without anesthesia during the Tea Party years for anyone that called in criticizing the Republican Party. Get off my show, you stupid person, whatever he would say, you dope, and he'd hang up on him. He was defending the Republican Party. So did Sean Hannity, and his ratings went right into the toilet, and he got bumped by Megyn Kelly. Remember when she took his time slot because people were sick of him because he was a lapdog for the CIA wearing their little pin and singing the praises of the Republican Rhino Uniparty? Well, Levin was doing the same thing and screaming at his listeners, get off my show, you dope that. And I was listening to this while I'm out walking my dog thinking, this dude's unhinged, in my opinion. Okay, so this guy, in my opinion, is controlled. Okay, he got what he got, I think, because he says what people in the establishment want him to say. Now he's in Israel saying they can never get a nuclear weapon. Period. Well, let me tell you something, Einstein. They got one, and I think you know it, unless you didn't have any legitimate off-the-air conversations with Peter Pry, because he's been saying it for years. These are the kind of clowns that are going to get us in big trouble. And in my opinion, Donald Trump should stop listening to morons like Mark Levin, who, by the way, is not even a good attorney from what I hear from attorneys. I'm done.
Nice. That was strong. You actually named the other person that I was listening to. It's the two of them. So, but I can tell you, I think in retrospect,
well, and the guy's wearing a CIA pin for how many years? Wasn't he wearing a CIA pin on his coat for a long time?
FBI or CIA?
I mean, come on. We all know Sean Hannity's not talented. All right. We know the dude got there because he had help, I think, because he said what they wanted. He's not a bright bulb. I know people that have been in his home. I know people that know him. They say he's a nice guy, but he's not real bright. But neither was George W. And I met the man for a few minutes. He was a nice guy, but everybody knows George W. wasn't real bright, okay? Everybody knows that. The establishment
he
likes to
wasn't in
use.
charge, so.
What's that?
I said, luckily, he apparently wasn't in charge.
Well,
so.
he wasn't. We just had Kurt Weldon on our show last night, who got called up to the Oval Office on Air Force One and was trying to brief him on Putin. And he said on my show he wasn't in charge. That Rumsfeld, Cheney, and Rice were running his White House. He wasn't in charge. Now, he's a nice man. I think he is a nice man. Way he interacted with me and my wife and children, I think he's a nice man. I think he's a guy that you would enjoy maybe having dinner with. But it seems as though the powers that be like to pick guys that are nice but not real bright. And I think I would put Sean Hannity in that camp.
Yeah, I mean, it's useful, right? You have a public face. And I just think back, like I've had a political journey, right? And I'm not going to go through all of it, but I'll tell you back in the early 2000s, I was what at the time they would probably call a Christian conservative, and I was in the military, so I was super gung ho. And man, you know what? When I heard the name Halliburton, it made me so mad because I'd say, how could this guy possibly? There's no way. And you know what? Actually, well, it probably exactly was what happened there. And a nice man, like, turns out to have been the person that was in power when also, again, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people died. It doesn't matter who they are. Hundreds of thousands of people died for the interests of the ruling elite. That's exactly what happened. And the nice man helped it happen. And then the nice man came out against the only person who's come in and believably said, I'm going to look out for actual interests of Americans. And that, they see through it. And I think everybody's just in a histrionic fit. And it's great. I mean, I love that some of these people are starting to crack because they should. To you, like my flags go up when I hear somebody speaking in absolutes. Iran should never have a nuclear missile ever. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe they're going to democratize again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, maybe we should be working with that. Like, maybe we shouldn't have driven Russia into the hands of China.
To your point, how do we know the Persians aren't going to take over, right? How do we know? Let's say in the world, I would like to see the Shah's son, the prince, goes back, right? And he gets a free elections by the people, and maybe he's the one elected or someone he helps, and you have free Iran, which a lot of Persians in Iran want, and a lot of my friends that are here who are Iranians or Persians from Iran, that's what they want. So are we to say they're never to have weapons to protect themselves against nation states that don't want them to be a free nation anymore and take them back, like Jimmy Carter, threw the Shah under the bus?
Yeah, no, and we have absolutely no, in my opinion, moral authority to go in and help them at all. Can you imagine current United States working with Iran to help implement free elections? We would be giving them the machines, right, and forcing the outcome of these things. And there's just so much selective outrage too. Everybody's focused on Iran.
Can you imagine if we gave them the machines, right? Can you imagine if we gave them the machines?
Yeah, we would do it on purpose to protect democracy. That's what we would do. That is what the current government would do in Iran if we helped them. Maybe that's what we did in Iraq, too. I don't know. But I can tell you what is that there's selective outrage, too, because you talk about Iran getting a nuclear weapon, and maybe it's a well-kept secret. I don't know. But look at Pakistan. Pakistan's got nuclear weapons, doesn't it? And it's in a shooting war with India right now. Nobody's really talking about that.
Pakistan, India, North Korea, Russia, China. Are we to think that Iran couldn't buy one if they didn't want one? Couldn't buy several? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But hey, we gotta go to war to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. But what if we told you they already have one or multiple ones? So what's the excuse to go to war then? Well, it's no longer. We have to go to
war harder.
Yeah.
We have to go to war harder to stop them.
We need to have more Americans die, right? Give me a break.
We have to find those nukes and get them back. Oh, man.
All right. So let me ask you this in closing. Yeah?
Well, I just want to say, meanwhile, Iran is so far down the list of who voters think are our enemies. We've asked this question many, many times, and the numbers kind of change around. Right now, if you ask voters, out of a list of these like 6 places, who's America's biggest enemy? The Democrat Party is the number one enemy, followed by China, followed by the Republican Party because of Democrats, followed by Russia. And then all the way down at the bottom, you have North Korea and Iran vying for like 5th place at like 7 or 8%. So nobody cares. They don't care about Iran. It's like an afterthought.
I just saw another tweet by Levin. Here's another one. All caps. No nukes for Iran. These are genocidal maniacs. Well, yes, they are. It's a terrorist regime. More important that we protect our country from the nuclear bombs than we protect their nuclear sites from our bombs. There are no second chances. Oh, really? Okay, so in other words, again, we got to go to war to protect ourselves. While he interviews Judy Zasser, or Zasser Judy, whatever the so-called moderate Islamist guy, right? Yeah, there is no such thing as moderate Islam. Sorry, boys. And I'm sitting there watching him interview guys like Zasser Judy or Judy Zasser, whatever the dude is. The guy wears a tie and wants to tell us he's some moderate. Come on. I mean, that's like, give me a break. There's Islam. It's just buy the book and read it, okay? There's no, turn to this chapter if you want to be the moderate. This is the extremist chapter of the Quran. Now, you only read this one if you want to be an extremist. No, there's only one Quran. So we're getting lectured by Levin, who can't seem to even figure out the truth about Islam and how they've penetrated the country with people, I think, that he's interviewing.
Well, clearly Christian nationalists are a bigger threat than Islam, Brandon, clearly.
Oh, my. Okay, so how is Trump doing in his first 100 days in polling?
In polling, well, I'll tell you, he does not have a high approval rating, but that's to be expected in a country on the cusp of a civil war. Yep. But also, two things can be true at the same time. And what is also true is that they're pumping out garbage polls on purpose, I think in a coordinated manner, just over the weekend into the Sunday news cycle to try and convince the world that Donald Trump has the worst polling in 100 days of any president in the U.S. And I don't know if that's true or not. I think it's like an artificial measuring stick. Who cares? What I can tell you is that his approval is just not that bad. It's at 48% today. He's underwater 2. We had him down to underwater 5. But Reuters, CNN, they have him at like -13, -14 right now. And there's no way. And you can look at those polls and you can tell they're absolutely garbage because some of them have things like they have him underwater 50 points among independents. And that's crazy town because independents were relatively tied in the fall. And then there's even more insane things like the fact that the ABC one that they wrote the headline on, worst polling in 80 years at 100-day point, the ABC poll has him underwater 6 points on the issue of immigration. And that's just absolutely crazy because our numbers found that like 65% of people want mass deportation programs. They strongly support it. 55% want a 100% deportation candidate, only 35% 100% amnesty. So the American populace is very, very, very illegal immigration. And the fact that Trump has come in and immediately secured the border, like, yeah, he's going to have high approval on that issue, and yet not in their polling. And so it's probably because ABC News is owned by Disney. It's got an executive that's best friends with Kamala Harris, and they're all globalists, and they want to continue their sort of global homo situation where you can squeeze every last drop out of the American middle class and then use your access media to puff up your stock price, pay yourself a nice golden parachute, and ship all the jobs to China. And I think they're worried that gravy train is over.
Mm. And by the way, while you were talking, and I agree with that, I had to go do a little more research on Levin. There he is. There's his show. And there he is on this week, April 25th, I guess this was, interviewing Zuhdi Jasser, a Muslim American, and we've done a lot of shows on this guy, reformist. Right, that's right, because you can reform Islam. Give me a stinking break. And this guy who is interviewing guys like Zuhdi wants to tell us that we need to take his advice on what to do with Iran. He can't even figure out who he should be interviewing about Sharia. And by the way, again, Mark, welcome to the game. About 15 years behind our show, covering Yasser Qadi, which is what you're talking about. The Epic Center down in Dallas. This guy was an imam down the street from my house, which I've been warning about since like 2010, 2013. So again, glad you got my leftovers, Levin. It's not the first, won't be the last. Closing comments there. I just don't, I'm so sick of these guys, by the way. I'm sick of them. I listened to one of these guys the other day who said some things I agree with, right? He's got a lot of shows, a lot of popularity. He's talking about EMP and he's interviewing someone about EMP. Okay? And he's going, really? Really? Now, I don't know. Are you acting? Is this, oh, shucks, really? Stuff? Is that part of his act? I'm the common man. Really? I didn't know that. So I don't know if that's an act, or are you really that late to the game as a guy who's been doing journalism for 35 years You really are just now figuring this out about EMP. And what is it
they've
about
been
these
talking
people?
about that a long time.
I mean, that's why we had Peter Pry. That's why we brought Peter Pry into studio, filmed shows, filmed tons of stuff, did documentaries. We're screaming and hollering about EMP with, people that were like the Einstein of science in the modern time with Peter Pry. And these guys that are all viral on social media are talking about EMP and going, shucks, really? I'm like, no wonder we're losing. Like I always say, the conservative movement is always a day late, a dollar short. When we were trying to tell them about Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 back in the early 90s, when Mikhail Gorbachev and the guy that went there to head the Rio summit and was being praised by George H. Bush, he was being praised as president by George H. Bush at the event of the Agenda 21 signing in Rio. We were trying to warn about this in the early 90s. We were called, that's conspiracy theorists. And now these guys talk about it like they're the authoritative individual. I'm like, you wouldn't even touch this topic till a few years ago. And now that basically it's down the road and this is a pretty well done deal, now you want to talk about it. Why does our side always want to talk about the topics when it's too late to do anything about the topic they're now talking about?
Well, the funny thing is I just love this topic, and I'm happy you brought it up because, I mean, like I grew up in the 90s, right? And I just asked Grok to help me out here. And so we had Broken Arrow in 1996, a John Woo film with John Travolta. Remember the one with the stealth bomber?
I do.
Then we had Goldeneye in 1995, and even The Matrix in 1999. All those movies heavily featured EMPs.
That's right. It was
like part of the cultural zeitgeist.
That's right.
Even in Threads in 1984, it was about the EMP effects of after a nuclear. I mean, like, duh. And like here we have like half of the grid in Europe going down, and people are like, wait, we might have some problems with infrastructure susceptibility. Yeah, like that's a modern concern, and one of the fifth generation warfare ways that probably China is going to turn against us when their trade war fails. So buckle up.
Yeah, and when we were talking about this and putting up a website in 2016 for people to buy emergency freeze-dried food, that's actually really good. It's real food, just freeze-dried, saying, you guys understand we're bringing former CIA analyst Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, who is the chief of staff of the EMP Congressional Commission, into our studio at our expense, paying him, putting up, giving him an honorarium, producing his show, TV and radio, trying to warn the American people, because this guy's like a modern-day Paul Revere on EMP. What happens? When we put up a website saying you might want to get enough food for 6 months, a year, a couple years, because if we get hit, okay, you're toast, okay? There's not going to be any food at the grocery store for you. What happened? Religious pastors, supposedly Bible-teaching pastors and elders, some of them in their flock were on social media mocking us. Houses selling into the world apocalyptic freeze-dried food. We're like, yeah, that's right, you moron, because that's your job, and you should be actually helping the sheep, right? He who doesn't provide for his family is worse than an unbeliever, a pagan, the Bible says. And we're simply saying, you might want to get some stuff and help the little old lady across the street whose husband's a veteran and passed away, or the single mom down the street with children. You might want to think outside the box. I asked a pastor once who was building a $14 million addition to his building, which he didn't need. Couldn't fill it, by the way, built it. And I said, you'll never fill this thing. People don't want to hear your kind of preaching anymore. They want to go to the, everything's great, give me your best life now. He never filled it. It sits half empty. He looks like a moron with a half empty auditorium that he hasn't been able to fill for the last 10 plus years, but it cost him $14 million. But I said, hey, what are you going to do if the power grid goes down for a month, 2 months? What are you going to do with the seniors in your church? You guys got any food, cots, blankets, water? What are you going to do with your flock? He looked at me like a calf staring at a new gate. He had no idea. But hey, they got their $14 million he could never fill. I mean, it frustrates me to death, because let me tell you something. When it hits the fan, I'm not going to be sitting in the dark starving to death like these other people will. I mean, it's not going to be Disney World, but my family's not going to be starving to death. Well, now, we might be run over by the Islamists trying to kill us and rape us, but at least we're not going to starve to death.
there's an aspect of religion here that really needs to be put under a microscope, because it's certainly being used against people, right? You hear more concerns, again, about the overstepping of Christians than about actual, like, real threats from radical Muslims. And we know that there's been a history in this country of, like, interplay between the government and the church. That's one of the reasons that we have separation of church and state. And, I read a pretty good book, Letter to the American Church, and understand from that and from other readings that was really done to protect the church from the state, because the church is a pretty powerful weapon to be used against people in their against their issue, their best interests. And so you're talking about, well, like, Islam can't be, reformed. And it's like, I don't know, maybe it can, maybe it can't, but we're actively having our own religions reformed, like, right now. I was born and raised a Methodist, and the United Methodist Church has become essentially a progressive political action committee.
That's right. That's right.
And so all these people that are supposed to be preaching, from the Bible, lessons from the Bible, they're also supposed to be leading their flock, and they're supposed to have their eyes open enough to know about these concerns and whether they're evil or not, and steal their churches out of these situations. I've had a lot of conversations with pastors, and it's like, well, that's great. You got scripture about the issues that we're facing now, like transsexualism, but it's like, are you going to do anything about it? And the answer in many cases is no. And that's great. A lot of people are fleeing to non-denominational churches, really alive and well, evangelical movement. And that is great. And it needs to be done more. But it's like, ultimately the church has a responsibility to help people through this very confused time when their own morality is being used as a weapon against them.
And that's why we started, my wife and I started in 1992, and held our first Worldview Weekend rally in February of 93, applying a Christian worldview to law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, border, capital punishment, all of it, right? And what was the biggest obstacle we ran into? Now, while we had some churches supporting us and inviting us to host these events, we absolutely did. Many of those churches now have gone completely progressive, by the way. But we had a lot of pastors who said, that's political, that's politics. Really? Opening the Bible and saying, what does the Bible say about borders, capital punishment, euthanasia? The Bible addresses every one of these issues, but that was being political. And when people in the early 90s were starting to start salt and light committees, some pastors are like, awesome, let's do that. We need that. And I know pastors that were very aggressive. We need that. Others were like, no, that's political. We can't talk about that. And others were saying, hey, let's start a Christian school.
Political?
What's that?
Brandon, is sterilizing children political?
Well,
is it a political thing? I talked to a pastor, and he's like, one of the hardest things that I have is, like, one of my young friend, my son's in college. He has a friend who's transsexual, and I have the hardest time talking to him, and I don't know what the message the Bible has for that individual. And I'm like, okay, well, how about salvation? And also, I'm sorry you've been victimized, but this is not the appropriate thing that the Bible has laid out for your future.
100%.
I'm sorry that somebody made you make a mistake, and they should probably seek forgiveness, but so you have to too, right? Like,
yeah, and I would want to know, were you molested, right? One of the first questions would be, were you molested? And if so, by who? Because I want to find out where this confusion's coming from. So let's get to the root causes of why so many of these kids are confused. Not all of them were molested, but we have a huge, untalked about epidemic in this country of people and kids, and now many of them are grown adults who have been molested. And that's why a lot of these kids are confused. Or they've been shown porn. They've seen porn at an age that, it mystifies people, that things that you couldn't get unless you went on the seedy side of town, when in the 1950s and 60s. Now it's on their phones, right in their face. No wonder these kids are so confused. But again, we can't talk about that. That's political, Brandon.
Yeah. When I grew up, there was an army of high integrity adults that took their roles seriously. And if you randomly, and okay, my mom taught me stranger danger when I was 5, but if I confronted an average adult, they would be a force of stability and rightness not trying to undermine my upbringing for their own political ideological validation. That's the problem, and it's a problem with adults. And I don't know how you fix it, but we're in a way worse spot.
And you could go to the public schools in the 80s. I mean, you could go to the government public school in the 80s, right? And you're, by and large, the vast majority of your teachers were upholding right and wrong. They were not teaching, go out and experiment with homosexuality, right? They weren't out there saying, well, how do you know unless you try it? They weren't out there teaching this stuff. I not from Minnesota, but I grew up in Minnesota, and that's a pretty liberal progressive state. But even in the 80s, the public school teachers, by and large, were pretty well going along with the values of mom and dad at home. These were not what we have today. I mean, if anyone had told us in the 80s what schools would be in 2025, we would have never believed that. We would think, like you just said, what adult is going to go along with that? But the Democrats then are not the Democrats of today. The Democrats then, many of them were what we call blue dog Democrats. They voted for Reagan, right? They were union, hardworking, family people. And now, of course, many of those people are Republicans. Because they realize the Democrats are just trying to steal everything they've got. But you hit the nail on the head there. We don't have the adults in our society that we had when you and I were growing up. We don't.
Yeah.
Not enough
individuality, victimization, manipulation by power structures. And you can see it all happening the entire time. There was a wave of multiculturalism that was really hitting schools when I was running through the public school system. That was probably like step one. It's like, oh, let's worship other cultures instead of understanding the values of our own. And then you could see behind me, a few years behind me, was a wave of, no, everybody gets a participation trophy, and we're not allowed to play dodgeball anymore. And it's like, when I was a scout, a Boy Scout, I remember like very strong, upstanding, and most importantly, in my opinion, disagreeable men. Like leaders who are like, no, don't do that. That's not the right thing. You should do this, like setting a strong masculine role model. I don't think there's much of that at all. Like that's gone, right?
Well, that's now called toxic masculinity, and someone's suffering from a psychological problem and needs a pill.
Well, yeah, that's what they're trying to convince you that the problem is in Europe. It's not knife-wielding migrants that we shipped in. It's masculinists. That's the new problem that they have.
Because we just need to moderate those people and reform it. Yeah, let's just take jihad, which is your only way to be guaranteed you get to heaven, with 72 perpetual virgins, by the way, and let's somehow moderate that and reform it. I mean, what is it? Okay, it's now bring the little lady across the street some supper and you get 72 perpetual virgins instead of slitting her throat. I mean, how are you going to rewrite the Quran? Really? They're going to do that? I mean, it's like saying, well, we just need a moderate Satanism. I mean, come on. And I know I'm going into the weeds here with you, but I know way too much about Islam. And you can't reform these things. And yet these people are running around. They're running around trying to solve problems that you cannot solve unless you get to the worldview basis, because the worldview is the foundation of the values, and the values is the foundation of the conduct. And we want to ask, why are these people doing this? I don't care if it's the Islamists, the Marxists, the globalists, the paganists. I don't care who it is. Why are they doing this? Well, go to their values. Where do their values come from? Their worldview. And until we understand as a country these dominant worldviews, which, by the way, you used to be able to throw up a chart in the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s. You could throw up a chart and show these 6 dominant worldviews, and they pretty much stayed in their lane. Now those worldviews have merged. Now we've merged Christianity and communism. Now we've merged Christianity with cosmic humanism or the New Age movement. Now we've merged Christianity with Islam, and we just all worship the same God. No, we don't. So it is getting confusing, because when I was being trained in this, what's that?
The Methodists believe that now. They were singing at the conference that all faiths lead to God.
It's not really? Just the Methodist. The Southern Baptist Convention.
Now?
The Southern Baptist Convention. The Southern Baptist Convention had a president of the Southern Baptist Convention, J.D. Greer, who wrote a book on this, that the Muslims and the Christians are worshiping the same God. The Muslims will tell you, when they're being honest with you, no. God would, Allah would never have a son. He would never take on the form of a man. He would never die for anyone. The Quran even teaches that Jesus didn't really die. The prophet, they called Jesus the prophet, he got down off the cross. He didn't even finally die. I mean, yet these people have merged these worldviews to a point where when you used to be able to throw up, here's one for you, an overhead slide. Remember we had overheads, an overhead projector?
Yeah.
And you throw up on the overhead projector, you throw up a sheet that would list out the 6 dominant worldviews. And people would go, okay, communism, Islam, okay, postmodernism, cosmic humanism, New Age, Christianity, secular humanism. Okay, I get it. Now you throw up that sheet, and now you got to show that these worldviews have now converged and how they've converged. And you think the pastors that we were trying to teach this to would get it back in the early 90s and 2000s? Now try showing them how their own denominations have embraced them and merged those worldviews in the mainstream of evangelicalism. This totally happened. And that's why I say we're always playing catch up. The Bible says, my people perish for lack of knowledge, acquisition of truth. And that's the big deficit today. The big deficit, and I don't care if we're talking politics, economics, religion, the big deficit today is truth. That's it. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. It's an info war. World War III is an info war.
Yep.
And then, 70% of the country still identifies as Christian too, but that's the problem, is that doesn't necessarily mean worldview.
That's right. But you know what my question would be? One of the 4 deadly questions would be, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that, right? What do you mean by that? Define Christianity. Right? Can you imagine the answers you'd get?
Let me say this, Brandon. I was trying to pull up our Islamic polling, and we haven't done something in years. But the last time we said, is the United States at war with radical Islamic terrorism, 58% said yes, 25% said no. That's pretty strong numbers, and 18 to 39, but that was in 2017. What I'll say, and, I think that there's some interesting stuff about this worldview idea that I could poll on. And I have an idea where we work with a client who might be interested in running it with one of the polls that they're sponsoring for us.
Well, why don't we also talk about, why don't we talk about also sponsoring a poll for you guys?
Yeah, but I think there might be some synergies here where we don't have to. Let's put that together. But yeah, interesting, because this is something that I think hits at like the problems going on, which is like almost every.
And it would be great for you when you speak at our National Worldview Conference this October. You'll have plenty of things to say. Here's where we're at with the average worldview of Americans on the polling data.
Yeah.
You haven't forgotten coming here this October 3rd and 4th, right?
Oh, no. No, we'll do something and unveil there. No, I haven't forgotten. My family's like, oh, sweet, we're going to turn it into a vacation. So,
have you been to Graceland?
No.
You like Elvis?
Not really.
Wow. Did I say we had you booked?
I don't have time for sports and music. I spend all day around numbers and politics. It's a very boring existence.
There's a lot of people. A lot of people
Yeah.
here in Memphis that don't care for Elvis, but I don't fully get that. But anyway, there you go. My wife's never been to Graceland. We've been living here now for over 20 years. She's not been to Graceland, but one of these days we'll take her. But your kids say, let's go to Memphis. I don't know what they're going to do here, but be sure you take them down to the Peabody to see the Ducks. The Ducks walk off the elevator on the red carpet and jump into the
I've heard of that. Yeah, I've heard of that. They'll like that.
And then you can take them to the Bass Pro Shop. We have alligators there at the Bass Pro Shop.
I know it's Memphis and not Nashville. We'll eat some barbecue. Maybe we'll get some hot chicken. I think that might be something. My kids are into that.
Yeah,
so.
I'll tell you which barbecue places to go to if you want, because there's a few that are overhyped. You don't want to go to them, but I'll tell you which one's the best ones to go to. Yeah. I'll tell you. Yeah. Your kids would have a good time. Your kids have a good time here. Yeah. All right, October 3rd and 4th. Let's promote his website. We could talk all day. We're just kind of freewheeling, as you guys can see. Mark Mitchell.
Well, yeah, I'm going live in 5 minutes.
Oh, I better let you go. There you go. There it is. RasmussenReports.com, and follow him on X, Honest Pollster. Mark, thank you.
Yeah, it was great being here. That's a good conversation. We're going to put that. I think my clients who we poll with frequently and sponsor us really love the religion aspect, and so they might be interested in putting something together. So I'll get back to you on that.
Let's do it. Yeah, and we would be happy to sponsor a few polls ourselves, because I know you got to make a living like everybody else, and And I know we've talked off the air about that, but yeah, we should be sponsoring a few polls ourselves along the way because that's right in our wheelhouse as well. Or the two groups can work together and make the burden lighter.
Yeah, there are a lot of hot topics we just talked about that we can put into stuff.
Absolutely.
Maybe make some headlines. Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
Excellent.
Mark Mitchell checking in. Check out his site right there. Mark Mitchell at RasmussenReports.com or at X, Honest Pollster, at Honest Pollster. Before we continue, remember, folks, this is a great way to support your health and us at the same time. Melissa just brought it to me, and I take it every day. I put half a scoop, as you know, in Dolly's food every day. One scoop is the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. By the way, there's science behind this. There's 5 clinical trials behind this. You can go to our website, melissahousegpa.com, find out all about it. We have a special spot we did on this because you guys all remember the story behind the guy that developed it, right? You remember his story? Here it is, just to remind you. This is Tom Harper. They diagnosed him with cancer and he started eating the paste. We've shown you the video of that. And remarkably, he's like, they went in for biopsy, said, there's this white film on your lungs. Took 11 biopsies, all came back benign. He's like, I don't know. I'm just telling you what happened. Yeah, I'm not making a claim. I'm just telling you what happened. And it was reported in the paper up there in Canada. So he was raising this phytoplankton for his shellfish and stuff. Started eating it when they gave him this, you got a few months to live thing. And he was like, well, what do I got to lose? So he starts eating this. That's how the man that now runs Global Plankton Alliance, that's how he knew all about this because he worked with Tom. And here is David Hunter, okay? So we have Tom Harper and Dave Hunter. Well, Mr. Tom went on to live another 10 years, retired to Hawaii. And so David said, well, we got to get this to the public. So he came up with the process to be able to take this phytoplankton and then to freeze dry it, turn it into a powder, and one scoop is the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. They grow this, by the way, in these facilities, and then they use a pharmacy-grade water filtration system. This is the real deal. Again, lots and lots of science behind this, going right to the cellular level. So why don't you go to melissahousegpa.com, read up on it, and then join me in drinking this each and every day. Go ahead and put a half a scoop on your pet's food every day, like I do for Dolly. And let's all be healthy together. Global Plankton Alliance, melissahousegpa.com. Melissa House, it also curbs your appetite. And you know what else it does? I haven't said this in a while. Takes away your munchies for junk food. I don't know why, but Melissa and I both have agreed on that. It takes away your desire for munchies. You find yourself going to the cabinet, trying to get those potato chips and all that kind of stuff. I don't know what this is, but if you were to get on this regularly, all of a sudden I'm not kidding. And you do this and then you email us. You do this and then you email me, Brannon, 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 and it's not Logan. And one of the guests called me Logan like 6 times the other night. I didn't correct him. I didn't have the heart to do it. It's not Brandon either. I don't know if you type Brandon at worldviewtube.com, I don't even know if it'll make it here, guys. So Brannon, Brannon at worldviewtube.com. If you guys are doing this already, tell me if you don't find it also curbs your appetite, but takes away your desire for junk food. Because it does. For me, it does. For Melissa, I'd love to hear what you guys think. It's really that simple, folks. So check it out, melissahousegpa.com. Don't forget about all of our other sponsors here at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. By the way, I just drank that with this great water. This is the water we drink. This is the water I give Dolly and Cayman when she was here, because it removes all those toxins. Of course, unless you want to drink those toxins and have at it. But I don't think you do. So I highly recommend you go to worldviewwater.net and get one of these water filters. We've had to order these several times now to keep them in stock. And it also infuses in there oxygen, which is great for your cells, and magnesium. You can read all about it at worldviewwater.net and place an order, worldviewwater.net. All right, joining me now is our expert on Islam, one of our experts, but one of the premier experts, because he actually speaks Arabic, and he has translated the Quran from Arabic into perfect English. Usama Dakdak joins us tonight to talk about Zuhdi Jasser. This is Mark Levin. We were talking about Mark Levin tonight with Mark Mitchell, and Mark Levin just loves Zuhdi Jasser, who thinks you can reform Islam. I think, again, that's like saying you're going to reform Satanism. Well, there are moderate Satanists, and then there are radical Satanists. You know, really? You would never say that. Well, there are moderate Nazis, and then there are just Nazis. And then there are radical Nazis. We can handle the moderate Nazis, just not the radical Nazis. Well, that's what you're saying when you say stupid things like moderate Islam. There's only one Islam. You read the Quran, you follow the Hadiths, that's Islam. And yet, Mark Levin, who no one ever accused of being super bright, is running around telling us, we have to go to war. Yeah, he loves war, apparently. We got to go to war to stop Iran from getting the bomb. And as I said earlier tonight, really, I think you know they already have the bomb. And if you don't know that, then you're really dumber than I thought you are. But you interviewed Peter Pry like we did. And Peter Pry, the late Peter Pry, believed Iran had the bomb a long time. You don't think they didn't buy it from Pakistan or North Korea or get help to develop one? Of course they have one. Question is how many? So if we got to go to war with Iran to stop them from getting the bomb, what if you found out, Mark Levin, which I think you already know, but what if you found out that they already had the bomb? What's your excuse going to be for going to war then, Mark, along with Sean Hannity? Oh, wait a minute. You guys all have the same thing in common. You're the CIA front, I think, over there at Fox News. I don't know. Maybe they're not. But something makes me wonder if Fox isn't just a big front for the CIA. Did the CIA help start Fox News like they helped start Google? Question mark? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just asking questions. But you guys surely want to go to war. Well, what would it mean if we struck Iran? Because apparently Susie Wiles, Pete Hegseth, and one other person was saying, Tulsi Gabbard, I think, saying, whoa, we don't want to do this. We want to work this out diplomatically, President Trump. Or others are saying, go to war, go to war. So thankfully, President Trump's listening to the side saying, let's try to work this out diplomatically. What would it mean if we went to war? Joining me now is Usama Dakdak. Yes, thank you, Usama, for being with us.
Absolutely, Brennan. It is always my joy to be with you. And I apologize about early this morning or afternoon. I was not able to hear your call. So God is good. But I would like to, if you don't mind, just share a couple of verses to understand who is really Zuhdi Jasser according to the word of Allah in the Quran. Not my opinion, but the word of Allah. In Quran chapter 3 and verse 167, Allah said, that's Allah's word, that he, that Allah, might know the hypocrites when it was said for them, come engage in war for the sake of Allah or contribute. They said, if we know how to engage in war, we would have followed you. They are closer on that day to infidelity than to faith. They, and I don't have to waste your time with the rest of the verse. The word of Allah is very clear. The hypocrites are known by two things. They will not perform jihad for the sake of Allah with their life, nor their money. That is how we know the hypocrite. So if you go and ask Zuhdi Jasser and say, are you willing to go and fight and kill some Americans and kill some Jews and kill some Christians? Zuhdi Jasser say no. Oh, are you willing to give, a few $100,000 or even a few $100 to help a good Muslim in Gaza to kill a Jew or a good Muslim in America to kill a Christian? He say no. That's how we know that Zuhdi Jasser is a hypocrite, not a moderate Muslim. There is no, as I always say, moderate Muslims because there is no moderate Islam. The opposite is true. A to Z. In Quran chapter 9 and verse 73, listen carefully, Brennan. This is the word of Allah, not Usama's word. Here is a command of Allah to Muhammad and to the rest of the Muslim believers. 9:73, and I quote from the Quran, O you prophet, Allah is speaking to Muhammad. O you prophet, perform jihad against the infidels and the hypocrites. Be harsh with them, and their abode will be hell, and evil is the final place. So I'm sorry, Muslim believers have the right to perform jihad against Zuhdi Jasser and Muslims like him and kill him as much as they also are commanded by Allah to kill people like you and I. So in reality, there is no moderate Islam, because the Quran teaches Muslim believers not to be hypocrite. They must kill the infidels and they must perform jihad with their money, as that is repeated throughout the Quran. 10 verses, 10 repeated verses. Those who believe, immigrated, and perform jihad for the sake of Allah with their money and their lives, they are the triumphant. So obviously, I can say that there is no such a thing as moderate Islam, because there is no moderate Muslim, because there is no moderate Islam, and he is just another hypocrite. And for years, Brandon, for years, we used to hear this. People say, where are the moderate Muslims? Why they're not speaking against these radicals, these extremists, these fundamentalists? The moderate Muslims are not stupid. If they spoke against Islam, whom you call radical or extreme or fundamental, they will be killed like you and I. That's why they zip it. They don't say anything. They are keeping quiet because they're saving their life. That is reality about Zuhdi Jasser and all those who are like him.
And of course, Mark Levin is constantly interviewing this guy. And promoting this idea of moderate Islam. Like I said, is it fair to say, calling from saying that there's a moderate Islam is the equivalent of saying there's a moderate Satanism?
Even worse. And I hate to say that. Even worse. You know why? Imagine if you go to a doctor and you know you have a bad cancer.
Right.
Let's make for me. I go to a doctor and he knows that I have a bad cancer. And he just changed the name of my cancer. Say, oh, you got Zuvanada. What is Zuvanada? Something, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. And I wait for 6 months and my Zuvanada now is stage 4. And then I'm dead. I'd rather to tell me the truth that you have a bad cancer, which most likely, if we don't take care of it right now, it's going to get worse and you're going to die young age, than to tell me, oh, this is a moderate Muslim. He's a good Muslim. Moderate Muslims, Zuhdi Jasser, helped Muslims to build mosques all over America. As a matter of fact, I believe, I don't know if him or not, his family built a huge mosque in Arizona. I mean, can you imagine if every moderate Muslim built a big masjid, a big mosque in America, and then the jihadi come and take over that mosque, and they start performing jihad in America? What a great victory. Muslim will be winning by the right hand and the left hand. As he ran as a congressman, and you know that, Brandon, you told me before the show. Yep. He ran as a congressman in Arizona as a Republican. Imagine with me if he's running as Imam Yasser Qadi as a Republican. Who's going to vote for him? Zero, zip. Nobody except the Muslim, of course. But if you are a moderate Muslim, you're not radical, you're not extremist, you're the one who tried to reform Islam, which is impossible to reform. To reform Islam, you have to get rid of that book. You cannot reform Islam by ignoring the word of Allah or the teacher of Muhammad. And if he run as a moderate Muslim, maybe he will win. And if he won, now we got Muslims on both sides of the aisle. They are Democrat, good congressmen, and Republican, good congressmen, Muslims. That will be the destruction of America. When he ran and he lost, I praise God, as Dr. What's his name? Dr. Muhammad something. I can't remember his name. He ran as a senator in Minnesota and he lost. Muhammad something, whatever his name was. I was so thankful that he lost. He's a famous guy, a Dr. Muhammad something, from Turkey, by the way. Anyway, so this is my my take on.
And yet the Republicans
political
are the ones embracing these so-called moderate Islamists to run as Republicans, right?
Well, I tell you why. Here's the deep understanding of it. Republicans do not want to speak the truth about Islam for what it is. It's an evil, savage cult. So to prove my point to you, Brennan, that I'm not an Islamophobe, I'm a nice guy. Look, I got some good Muslim friends here. The moderate one, not the radical one. As a matter of fact, Bridget Gabriel did that with Zuhdi Jasser. She used him in her ministry. Bridget Gabriel is called Act for America for years. And I have to speak in some of her own teams and some of her own parties all over this country to speak against her, because her people ask me, tell us the truth. Is there anything as such as moderate Muslim or moderate Islam? I said no. And Bridget is wrong, and she's using Zuhdi Jasser so she can protect herself. So now she does not look like a radical like you and I and Shahram Hayden and other people who speak against Islam. She's actually a wonderful lady. Why? Because she got Muslim friends. who are just happen to be moderate Muslim, like good cancer and bad cancer.
Wow. Well, here it is from Mark Levin's show. Look at this. This is just from a few days ago. He interviews Zuhdi Jasser about the challenges of reforming Islam and the importance of promoting moderate, Western, compatible interpretations of the faith that reject radical ideologies and separatist tendencies. Wait a minute. Western compatible interpretations? So basically they're going to go through the Quran and reinterpret it? I mean, how can you do that? Aren't some of the texts pretty clear? Oh, hey, the rock will cry out, there's a Jew hiding behind me, come kill him. How are you going to reinterpret that one, Mark Levin?
Yeah, let me give you a set of few verses quickly.
Am I right?
Quran
Isn't that
5.
a verse in the Quran?
Sure, that's hadith. That's a saying Muhammad.
That's a hadith.
We got worse than that.
Okay, well, let's explain the difference from the Quran is the words of Allah. And the hadiths are the words of Muhammad. Okay, let me do that again. The Quran are the words of Allah, and the hadiths are the sayings of Muhammad.
And Allah in the Quran, I don't know how many times, 11, 12 times, orders a Muslim believer, that's a matter of fact all over the Quran, to obey Muhammad. So for the Muslims say, well, we only obey Allah's word, we don't obey the hadith. Excuse me, Allah's words say obey Muhammad. Obey Allah and his messenger. It's all over the Quran. So you cannot tell me that, oh, if I see a Jew hiding somewhere, I will not behead him because that's only the word of Muhammad. It is Allah saying, you obey Muhammad. He said, behead them, you behead them. End of story. But in the Quran, and I want to see if Zuhdi Jasser will come on your show for a simple debate.
Well, I will moderate the debate between you and Zuhdi.
We tried that for the last 20 years. Neither any of our people, me and other people like me, or even maybe better than me, we tried. He refused to debate any of us because he knows he's a fraud. He's not a true Muslim believer. Or if he's a true jihadi, he pretend to be what he's not. But here's the deal. In the Quran, Allah said, 5:72, infidel indeed are those who said, surely Allah is the Christ, son of Mary. That means all the Christians who believe Jesus Christ, the son of the Virgin Mary, is God, are infidels. The following verse, 5:73, Allah stated, infidel indeed are those who said, surely Allah is the third of three. So all Christians who believe in Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, are a bunch of infidels. That's why Allah in the Quran in 5:51 said, do not take the Jews nor the Christians for friends. Okay? Now, you go to Quran chapter 47, verse 4. Allah said, when he made those who became infidels, let's take the word infidels out and put Christians. When you meet the Christians, strike the necks until you have made a great slaughter amongst them. Behead all the Christians. Now I wonder how Zuhdi Jasser or any moderate Muslim will practice that verse 47:4. Well, they say, well, let us make a new interpretation to that verse. When you meet the infidels, the Christians, massage their necks. Rub, back, massage, maybe hugs them and kiss them on the cheeks or below the cheeks, somewhere here on the necks.
Right. So this is so this is not even possible. This can't be done.
You cannot reform a religion. You cannot reform ideology. The only way we can reform Islam is this. If Jasser has succeeded to convince the American people that Islam is a loving and a peaceful religion, and all these ideologies and all these beliefs have nothing to do with Islam, because nothing in the Quran talk about killing, beheading Jews and Christians. Then 50 years from now, when Muslims are no longer 20 million in America, but maybe 100 million, then some true Muslims will reform Islam, right? Why? Because he will fix the lies which Zuhdi Jasser tried to convince the American people about Islam. And that Imam will do through reforming to Islam. How? He will go back to the book. He will go back to the word of Allah, and he will go back to the teaching of Muhammad. And that is exactly the only way to take over America. Let's start with those who claim to be moderate, and let's say Islam is now reformed. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, there's nothing to be worried about. And there's no beheading in Islam. There's no killing in Islam. The word infidel never mentioned in the Quran. You guys misunderstand these things, and here is Islam. Islam is a loving and peaceful religion. And then we open our country for the millions and millions of Muslims to come to America. And now we got 100 million Muslim men in America. And now we have Islamic center and Islamic cities all over America. And now a true Muslim imam will come say, wait a minute. You left Islam. Islam is the word of Allah. Here's what Allah said. Islam is the saying of Muhammad. Here's what Muhammad said. That is true reformation to Islam, to go back to the original, as we have true reformation for Christianity in the 1500s or so. Why? Because we went back to the Bible. And if that day comes, Brandon, America will be destroyed in few hours. Not few days or few weeks, in few hours.
Let's go to this. Mark Levin says, this is all over social media. He says, he stands at the Western Wall in Jerusalem opposing any nuclear deal with Iran. He opposes any nuclear deal. He's gone on to talk about how this is against our values and whatnot. Okay, I'm sorry. This guy is a moron. What a moron. What would it mean if we hit Iran? Okay, let's say that President Trump listens to Mark Levin and Sean Hannity, and they decide we're going to strike, because I think Sean Hannity's pushing this too. I know Mark Levin is, but I've been told by a retired military guy, Sean's talking the same way. So I'm assuming that's true. But I know for sure, Mark, if we really were to do this and strike Iran, what would happen to America?
We got enough Muslim Irani, we got enough Muslim Sunni, even not just Shiite in America, to destroy this country. Brandon, you and I talked about that, I don't know, 15 some years ago. There is enough Muslims in America 15 years ago to burn this great country twice in 5 minutes. Not using bomb, not using nuclear bomb. They're going to just go to some gas station owned by a Muslim and say, can I borrow a 1 gallon gas? Yes, you can. And by the way, here's a lighter for you. And if the 10,000 Muslims in America, I'm not saying 100,000 Muslims, I'm not saying 1 million Muslims, I'm just asking for 10,000 Muslims to borrow 10,000 gallons of gas and a lighter for free from some gas station owned by some Muslim men, and they go to 10,000 place in America. Here's the word 10,000, Brother Brandon. It's a huge number. As a matter of fact, if I say 1,000 will be a big problem. But I'm going to go for 10,000 because I'm going to be realistic here. A small, tiny minority of the good Muslim believers who will practice the teaching of Allah by performing jihad in America using a gallon of gas costs less than $3, but for sure they'll get it for free. And we have 10,000 fire in America, in wooded area. 10,000 fires. Like you see in California, like you see in Arizona, but it will be all over.
Wait a minute, like you see in Israel today.
Yes.
In Israel, okay? Israel is on fire. Leaders call for West Bank lockdown, and that's a pejorative, West Bank. That's Samaria.
10,000 fire, Brandon, in America. There is not enough water or firefighter in planet Earth. Not in America. Forget about America. If you gather all the firefighters from planet Earth and all the water we can get, the oceans and the rivers and the seas, you could not stop the burning of America. Are you ready for that? And here's another fact, Brandon. I'm going to share this with you quickly here. If we killed all the Muslims in Iran, you still have a problem. There are another 56 Muslim countries. The only way you can fight this war against Islam, which is a spiritual warfare, physically, with bomb and nuclear, whatever you want to use, it is to kill the last Muslim baby, not the last Muslim grown up jihadi. Why? Because Muslims, in their ideology, Quran chapter 2, verse 178, Allah gives them the doctrine of retaliation. Let me read you what Allah said. Here we go, 2, 178. The word of Allah said, I'm going to read to you so you know I'm not making this up. It's Allah said here, 2:178. It's a brief page. Here we go. O you who have believed, Allah is speaking up to the rest of the Muslim believers after you wiped out Iran. Take Iran from the face of the earth. retaliation is decreed on you for the murder. You're killing few million Muslim in Iran, and you got 1.7 billion on the earth are Muslims. They will practice Quran chapter 2 verse 178, which means retaliation will be beyond your imagination. The only way Mr. Trump can end the problem with Islam by going in war with Iran is to gather Iran with another 56 Muslim countries, a total of 57, and wipe out all the Muslims of planet Earth and make sure that there's not any free Muslims in America. Because if you kill all the Muslims of planet Earth and you left the Muslim of America free, America will be burned twice in less than 5 minutes.
And of course, I want to go back to Israel. This is what's going on in Israel. Leaders urge the government to lock down Judea and Samaria. West Bank's the pejorative. I don't know why they use it. In response to terrorists' online campaign to light fires next to Israeli communities. So Israel's on fire today. It's a lighter, cotton, and additional incendiary materials were found in his possession. The suspect in his 50s was taken in for questioning. Okay. We already know that one of the Al-Qaeda magazines 10 plus years ago was talking about using fire as for terrorist attacks. I think it's very probable that some of these big fires we've seen in America last year were done by terrorists. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
We played videos of Pat Boone talking about it in California and why he thinks that's the kind of thing going on, among others. But here we have it in Israel. Apparently, this is a terrorist attack in Israel. And if you notice where the fires are, it seems like they're burning predominantly in Jewish areas. But
and believe me, Brennan, Muslims have no problem to start the fire in their own homes if it will move from their own homes to the Muslim land. They are willing to sacrifice the life of their own children if that will lead to the killing of the Jews, because that is the final jihad.
Well, it's so bad that Israel is now asking for help from Greece, Cyprus, Italy, Croatia, Bulgaria. Okay. I think we're going to have Aaron coming into the studio. He's just gotten to town. I think Aaron's going to make it here in the studios. We'll ask him if he makes it. But apparently these are so bad, they're having to ask other countries for help. This appears to be a major terrorist attack. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Muslims will do anything and everything they can, as I said, including start their own fire in their own home if they know it will move from their home to some Jewish community. Why not? But I don't want to talk negative like that for the rest of this time we have together here. I want to say something positive. The real solution, Brennan, the best answer for the problem we have with Islam. Do you know that 87% of the Muslim people never read the Quran?
87%. Wait a minute. 87% of Muslims have never read the Quran.
They could not speak Arabic. They could not read the Quran. They could not. As a matter of fact, there's another 20-some% of the Arabs have never read the Quran because they're uneducated. They cannot read. They cannot write. So you're talking about a good 90% of the Muslims have no clue what's in that book. They never read the Quran. I believe the best solution, Brennan House, is that the Christian in America get out of their laziness and study Islam and learn about Islam and know how to share the gospel with the Muslim people, at least the one we have in America. Because guess what? Nobody's going to blow a bomb in your house, in your church today, if your church starts ministering to the Muslim in the community. They are not empowered yet. And I say yet and underline and highlighted, it is the Muslim in America are not empowered yet to perform full jihad in America. And we have one last hour of the daytime and the night is coming where no church in America can minister to the lost Muslims. So instead of we are worried about war in Iran and war here and war there, we don't know how to stop them from building a mosque here or building a center here or building a city here or building a community here. Why not? We get busy learning the truth about Islam, study the ideology of Islam. That book is loaded with information. If the Muslim knew, they would leave Islam. Sadly, some of them are leaving Islam in the millions all over the world without knowing Christ, and they are not becoming a Christian. They become an atheist. They become an agnostic. Some people say, that's good. That's not good. For me, as a born-again Christian, if a Muslim leaves that book to spend eternity in hell because there's no hell number 2, as an atheist, that's a loss of a soul. So let's get to do what's right. What's right is Christians in America, stop being lazy, get a copy of the Quran, start reading some other books. I got 7 books myself. I mean, people can read whatever they want to read. Educate yourself and educate others. Make teams out of your church to search for the Muslim Somali and the Muslim Bangladeshi and the Muslim Iraqi and the Muslim Kuwaiti and the Muslim whatever in your community, and share the gospel with them by showing them first that the Quran is a corrupt book. Who believes that the earth is flat?
Yeah.
Who believes that there are 7 earths and the sun set on a muddy spring?
Wait. I want you to slow down. They believe the earth is flat.
Yeah,
That's what the Quran teaches.
Sure, sit on a muddy spring at night. That's how it gets dark. And babies, I mean, there's enough error in the Quran. You can laugh as much as you want. There's verses in the Quran teach that the baby is actually made out of 2 fluid. The fluid comes from the backbone of a man, which is called sperm, and the other fluid, which is white and thick. There's the other one is yellow and soft, which come from the woman's breast or the chest, the bones on her chest. And when you mix these 2 fluids, we have natfa and shaj, which is mixed inside the woman's womb for 40 days without any change. And then somehow that natfa and shaj changed to be a congealed blood for 40 more days. And then it changed to a piece of flesh without shape or form for 40 more days. And then Allah sent his angel, the angel of the womb, to go inside the womb and shape that piece of meat to a human and make hands and legs and stuff to it. And then Allah will write the fate of that baby about will he be a happy or a miserable, will be a he or a she at the age of 120 days, and will he be a believer or a disbeliever. Write the fate for that baby to come, and then Allah breathes a breath of life in that piece of something inside the woman's wombs, because that is the beginning of the life of the baby, 120 days old. What human in America who have a little bit logic or common understanding, when he reads that in the Quran, continue to believe in Muhammad? I mean, most Muslims believe in Muhammad to be that great prophet, that great man, when in reality, from his own words, the hadith, we know, and from the Quran, we know that Muhammad was a child molester, a sex offender, a proper pretender, a womanizer, a pedophile, a 54 years old man married to a 9 years old baby girl. I mean, when Muslims know the things about Allah in the Quran and about Muhammad in the hadith, they leave Islam on their own. Why can't we Christians take these truths about how savage Islam is and how uncorrect their ideology and their belief about everything, and then we lead them to Christ? I can lead 1 million Muslims to Christ without spending the price of 1 bomb. 1 million Muslims can come to Christ without the price of buying 1 bomb. How many bombs are going to drop on the Muslim world to end the Muslims? And you will not.
Because they have 56 other countries to go to. Absolutely. So I got to get a quick answer because I have a very important video clip to play for you. So Mark Levin basically he's a ding-a-ling. I mean, he has to be a ding-a-ling because does he not understand Hezbollah, Hamas, all the terror cells here, everything they're ready to do? Now, I mean, Iran would have to really do something to justify going over there and doing that, right? Because again, you don't want to provoke these people because our borders were down for 8 years. Our borders were down for 8 years under Obama, 4 years under Biden. So 12 years they've had to prepare the battlefield. And don't think for 1 minute, Mr. Mark Levin. How do you know, Mr. Mark Levin, they don't already have nuclear weapons in the United States of America? Quit talking to me, Mark Levin, about their nuclear weapon over here, you ding-a-ling. How about they have one here? How do you know they don't? I just had on Kurt Weldon, who was warning years ago about the miniature nuclear suitcases. So, hey, Mark, how do you know they don't have one already here and they're just waiting for us to attack them so they can let it rip, Tater Chip? I mean, what do you think? What do you think, Usama?
Yeah. Brandon, it's very simple. I will be so naive, I'll be so ignorant, I'll be so stupid and say they don't have nuclear bomb, not there, not here. They don't need nuclear bomb to burn America. All what they need is a 3-gallon gas and a match.
But the
Trust
reality
me,
is
this
they,
is not a
they
joke.
have the bomb. They have it.
They maybe already have it.
They do. I
maybe
can
already
tell
have
you,
the people.
Peter Pry, former CIA analyst, wouldn't have been out there saying what he was saying with other guys, high level, and that was years ago, if they didn't have solid evidence. And he shared some of the evidence. They have one. They got one. I can promise you they got one, just based on my trust of Peter Pry.
Bren, why we give the Muslims the excuse to carry their jihad worldwide against Christians and against
And you know how many Marxists would join them in that, Usama?
Yeah.
You've already
No
got
doubt.
governors and these people calling for riots, disruption. You know, do you not think that if the Islamic world in America decided to let these folks hit the street from their mosque and send them out there, and the imams called for it, that the Marxists wouldn't join them? There are not, as you say, there are not enough fire trucks, but there are not enough police. Okay, then you let Donald Trump call out the military and the National Guard to restore order. I mean, talk about setting up Trump for failure. Mark Levin needs to shut his mouth talking about this kind of thing.
It's
like throw me in the briar patch. Throw me in the briar patch. You're from Egypt. You probably don't know that story over there about Burr Rabbit, do you?
No, but
you don't know the story of Burr Rabbit?
No, tell me about that. I don't know. We have camels. We don't have rabbits where I come from.
We'll get to Burr Rabbit one other night. All right, here, watch this. Watch this. Watch this.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Islam is the religion of rape, incest, and pedophilia, where they bow down to a stupid rock and a false prophet. I will never let Sharia
Go back in your cage,
Go back to your Muslim nation.
Go bark somewhere else. Hey, go bark somewhere else.
Try something, bro. Por acá a la izquierda. We're rolling.
Wow, I want to go back to the beginning. Hang on here. Got her hijab.
Islam is the religion of rape, incest, and pedophilia, where they bow down to a stupid rock and a false prophet.
Okay, tell me about the stupid rock part.
It is a rock. It's a holy rock. It used to be as white as milk. And it is actually in the shape of a woman vagina. And Muslims kiss it when they do the hijab, they do the Hajj. And when you kiss it, Brennan, you should not make a sound. You just let your lips touch it without making any sound. If you go, that's not right. You see some video, some picture of people licking it with their tongue. You go online, you watch it. Anyway, so it is when you kiss it, according to the Sunnah of Muhammad, you receive forgiveness of all your sin, past, present, and future. That's why the color changed from pure white, like milk, to the dark black, which we have today. That rock came down from heaven on Adam because after Allah kicked Adam from heaven to earth, and he is a sinful man, Allah, somehow want to give Adam a chance to receive forgiveness. So he gave him that white, pure white rock, and he kissed it. It turned a little bit gray. And from the days of Adam until today, the rock is getting darker and darker because it takes a lot of sins away.
Wait a minute. Is this
that is the rock?
Is this it? Is this it?
Yes, sir. Can't you see it? Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
Okay, here we go. All right. Wait a minute. It's a rock. Let me refresh this so we can start from the beginning on this.
Yeah, what is wrong with your cameraman? All right.
So that rock's
for the music.
The rock's in Saudi Arabia.
It's in the Kaaba. It's in the corner of the Kaaba, the black building.
In Saudi Arabia.
Muslim.
In Saudi
Yes,
Arabia.
absolutely. In Mecca. It is in the Holy Land, in the Kaaba. You know, when you do the Hajj and you circle the Kaaba 7 times, you get closer and closer, and then you kiss it. If you kiss it, oh, you got the forgiveness of your sin. By the way, that is one of the most unholy places in the world. As a matter of fact, there's plenty of video now are made where women, by the way, when you do the Hajj, men and women circle the Kaaba 7 times, and they do not wear any clothes, but women will have one piece of cloth cover all their body from their legs all the way to their head. And men covered between the belly button to the knee with one piece of fabric, no underwear. And that is when men molest women around the Kaaba. Men molest women around the Kaaba, touching by their hands to, you know, whatever Muslims do. So it is not a very holy site as in any way, shape, or form. And now we have videos made by Muslims all over the internet where men are molesting them.
All right, well, listen to this. Look at this. Look at this. Wow. Yeah, so they're going to moderate that. Zuhdi Jasser is going to give us a more moderate version of this.
Well, in the case of Zuhdi Jasser, you don't have to kiss it, just wave at it. Say, love you, sweetheart, from distance. You don't have to get close because you may get sick from other people kissing.
Yeah, you might. Yeah, absolutely. These people.
We moderate it.
Yeah, well, Mark Levin, he's the fountain of stupidity, apparently. Wow. I don't mean to be so hard on Mark, but I've had it with him. He's a loudmouth.
Brother,
he's also pushing for a constitutional convention. That rocket scientist is pushing for a constitutional convention. Something else the neocons are pushing, a con. Phyllis Schlafly warned us on my show many, many times against a constitutional convention. Oh, that's right. Let's open up Pandora's box, which they think they can limit to 1 or 2 things. And we're going to have rocket scientists like Mark Levin and his pals rewrite the Constitution. How well do you think it'll go if that dingaling, Mark Levin, gets involved in rewriting the Constitution?
God help us. God help us. Do you know why we have quadruple number of Muslims and mosque and Islamic center in America after September 11? It's because another guy like Mark Levin, his name is George W. Bush, convinced the American people that Islam is a loving, peaceful religion and Muslims are wonderful people. Look at this guy standing behind me here. His name is, what's his name? The guy from...
CARE?
CARE?
CARE? Yeah, the president of CARE.
Yeah.
The one who said that Black Lives Matter is our campaign, Black Lives Matter is our something, Black Lives Matter is our campaign. Remember him saying that?
Yeah. Yes. I can't remember his name.
I'll find it. Director of
CARE.
Director of CARE. I'll get it.
Yeah.
The director of CARE would be, let's see here. Is it Khalid M? No.
No, not Khalid.
Ihan Nihatawat.
That's it. Mr. Awad. Mr. Awad, the moderate Muslim man who's Mr. Bush speak very highly of, and because of that, the number of the Muslim quadruple in America and the number of mosques quadruple in America, thanks to Mr. Bush, who think of some Muslims as moderate. Mark Levin will make it even worse. He will make it even worse, especially if he want to rewrite the Constitution. I don't know what this guy's going to do, but God help us. By the way, Mark needs Christ as much as all Muslims in America need Christ.
Yep.
Because the wisdom of man is foolishness when you come to the true word of God. We are wise because of Christ and because of the Spirit of Christ in us, not because of anything else.
Yep.
All right?
Remember, here's what he said. Here he is. Here is the director of CARE, Muslim Brotherhood.
You can make a whole difference in 2016. You can change the reality of our time. This is the time for us as American Muslims to be in the front, not to retreat, because all of you are leaders. Your votes are your negotiating power in the year 2016. Turn your centers, Islamic centers, mosques, into registration centers for voters. Black Lives Matter is our matter. Black Lives Matter is our campaign.
Basically,
Yep. And I had this in my documentary. Let me go back to that lady.
Your centers registration. Our lives matter.
You are the new black people of America. If we don't stand, you will see Muslims murdered in the streets. We are the community that staged a revolution across the world. If we could do that, why can't we have that revolution in America?
Why not? Yeah. And that's in my documentary,
Mashallah,
Sabotage.
mashallah.
Yeah.
And she is a moderate Muslim, man. I'm telling you, she is a moderate Muslim. God help us.
All right.
God help us.
TheStraightWay.org. TheStraightWay.org. You're such an Islamophobe, but it's great having you on.
I know. I like it.
Usama Dakdok, TheStraightWay.org.
Thanks, man.
Somebody send him Burr Rabbit, will you? So we can get him up to speed on American pop culture and Burr Rabbit and the Briar Patch.
I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to learn, brother. You have a good one.
You too.
Appreciate it.
He's willing to learn.
Bye-bye.
There you go. All right, there you go, folks. Usama Dakdog checking in. All right, before we're going to take a quick break here and get Aaron in the studio. Got to bring out a chair for Aaron, our reporter from Israel, who's here in the U.S. on a tour, and talk about all these fires breaking out in Israel. And it's terrorism, folks. And it looks like it's going to be the biggest fires in Israel's history. We're having to call in other countries. And I think that this already happened in America, some of these big fires in America. I'm going to show you some reports from, I think, 2012, 2013, where the government was warning that terrorists would do this. Al-Qaeda and others were writing in their Inspire magazine to use fire as a form of terrorism. What do you think might happen if we strike Iran? Yeah, like Usama said, start fires everywhere. And so let's not follow people or give too much credence to these people that are so cavalier and nonchalant about, let's just strike Iran. Particularly when the excuse is, because we don't want them to get the bomb. Well, they've already got it, okay? So what is your excuse now for going to war? And are you ready for all the casualties on our soil? Or do you want to somehow figure this out differently? Or maybe just let Israel handle it and we just sell them, fighter jets, which we do, and other things. But do we have to get involved ourselves every time? All right. Here's another great way I think you should be preparing for what could be coming, and that is to go to worldviewhealthcare.com, worldviewhealthcare.com, and there you can find out about their healthcare plan like Enhanced, which is free prescriptions, their Elite, which is free prescriptions, pharmacy coaching, and free supplements, the Wellness Kit, with the ivermectin, the amoxicillin, the bird flu, our contagion emergency kit, the ultimate spike detox, all of this is there. Worldviewhealthcare.com, worldviewhealthcare.com. We traveled, as you know, to Wisconsin a few weeks ago. We took the wellness kit with us. We took a couple of them. You know what else I took? Several months worth of freeze-dried food. When I go to D.C., I'll be taking with me a couple of the wellness company kits, so if I need antibiotics. And I'll also be taking with me several months of freeze-dried food, because God forbid the power grid goes down there. I'm not going to be trying to figure out how to get food while I'm on the road. And I might have to hunker down for a few days or a few months or a few weeks, God forbid, a few weeks or months. But either way, I don't fool around with this stuff. I take this stuff seriously. You guys can do the same if you like. We have the resources for you to do it here. Worldviewhealthcare.com is one of them. Get your emergency medical kit. Now, you also should go to worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. That's where you can get the freeze-dried food, okay? And the different supplies, not just freeze-dried food, but all the different supplies that you need. Emergency bags, seeds, heirloom seeds, cookers, small abilities for making a fire to then boil the water to make the freeze-dried food. You can also get our Worldview tickets. They're only $99. We lowered the price this year considerably because we got our costs way down by doing it at a medium-sized theater in our backyard here that in Collierville. It seats 350. So seating is limited this year, 350 people. But you can get tickets now, $99. Gordon Chang, Alex Newman, Sydney Powell, Dr. Lana, Mark Mitchell, Chris Martinson. Going to be a great event. And you can also be a part of the banquet on Thursday night. I thought the banquet, there it is. Yeah, there it is, the Worldview banquet. And we got Hadiya. Remember, she's from Iran, former Muslim, became a Christian. She's going to speak for us. So again, you don't want to miss out. This is a great event on that This is just our cost. There's no profit margin fixed into this banquet. That's what it cost, $60 a person, for us to use the room and the meal. That's what it cost. So there's no profit margin in this for our foundation. All of that's available, worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com, and we'll be right back with Aaron. July 6, 2005. This is Tom Harper. Man figures plankton stopped his rare cancer. We got more of a response from this from our viewers than anything else you and I have ever discussed.
Tom Harper, 20 years ago, he had mesothelioma, deadly lung cancer, was given weeks to live, and he just intuitively started to eat the phytoplankton out of his fish tanks because he fed the phytoplankton to his shellfish. He was a shellfish farmer. And when he went in for the surgery, the surgeon came out of the operating room and told his family, I have not ever seen anything like it. The cancer is benign, and Tom Harper lived for years. He retired in Hawaii. We're not making any claim.
Here he is in his own words.
Started on a daily routine of just taking a bit of paste, putting it in my mouth, and wash it down with a drink of water. Within about 10 to 15 days, here I am, less pain in my back. I knew that something was going on, so I just kept eating half a teaspoon of this paste a day. I was booked to go for surgery in Victoria where they were going to do what they call a talc treatment. They went in there to have a look, saw something they never seen before, took 11 sites, sent them away for biopsy. I got the news back. Everything was benign. They just did not know what to make of it. Everything was absolutely clean. And I've tried dieting all my life because I'm a diabetic. If it's a coincidence or not, I don't know. My blood sugar started dropping. My weight started falling off. Here I am, no longer requiring insulin, and I was taking 88 units a day of insulin. I can eat just about what I want in moderation, and I have no elevated sugar levels, and I feel fabulous.
People, you hear the word cancer, and they want you to be instilled with fear. Cancer is nothing but a profound failure of the immune system. And what happened with Tom Harper is the phytoplankton is microscopic. It's God's microscopic food. And the Gatatana is the most nutritionally comprehensive strain of phytoplankton in the world. David Hunter studied phytoplankton for 20 years because he worked for Tom Harper and he was there in person and witnessed Tom's recovery. It's about getting pure nutrition inside your cells. And what happens, your body balances again or goes back to homeostasis. And when your body is pH balanced or in homeostasis, disease can't grow. It is literally microscopic, pure single cell plant food with protein and omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, with amino acids and vitamins and minerals. 1 scoop a day. There's 90 billion plant cells in here just for everyday nutrition and energy and, cognitive support, because this is God's pure nutrition.
Go to melissahousegpa.com today. Discover the science and learn more about the wonderful benefits of Gatatana phytoplankton. That's melissahousegpa.com. melissahousegpa.com.
All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Joining us in studio now is our reporter from Israel, Aaron Lavarco, who was just with us about 2 weeks ago with a standing room only audience in Waukesha, Wisconsin, outside of Milwaukee. He joins us now in studio. His flight has landed. He has arrived, and we've got him here. We're glad to have you here, Aaron.
Hey, Brandon. Great to be with you.
Aaron, your country is on fire right now. I'm going to go to some of the videos. But before I do, I want to remind our audience, look at this right here on my computer. Homeland Security noted 11 pages back in 2012. It's prepared by the Department of Homeland Security, Office of Intelligence and Analysis, and Cyber Infrastructure and Science Division, the fire departments of the city of New York, and on and on and on. And what were they doing? They were warning. They were warning about terrorist groups and violent extremists have long shown interest in using fire as a weapon due to low cost and limited technical expertise required, potential for causing large-scale damage, and the low risk of apprehension. Okay? Now you go down here to this one. Look at this one I really want to highlight because we've talked about this. The most recent edition of Al-Qaeda in the Arab Peninsula, their English language Inspire magazine. We've talked about their Inspire magazine. Remember, this is back in 2012. this report, provides instructions for and advocates setting fires in the United States to destroy forests and buildings and cause mass casualties, economic damage, and fear. Now, guys, I think this is what was going on in California and some of these other places. And I think this is what's going on in Israel. This is such a large fire. Here we go. Police arrest arson suspect. Fires continue to blaze across Israel. But as you scroll down the page, you find that this has gotten so bad that Israel has had to call in help. They've had to call in help. I don't know where that article just went. They've had to call in help from several countries. I can find that again. I think they've had to call in help from Saudi Arabia. There we go. Greece, Cyprus, Italy, Croatia, Bulgaria. This is burning big time. Aaron, is this going to be the biggest fires in your history?
According to our defense minister, yes, it will, Brannon. About 15 years ago, when we had our worst fire, the public went ballistic because for many years, the fire brigades were complaining that they were under-equipped, under-man-powered. They didn't have enough engines. So over the next 5 years, we managed to bolster up all of the manpower, getting new fire engines. By the way, a number of Christian ministries paid lots of money, supported lots of money to buy new fire engines. Sadly, though, what we're seeing today is we're still not have enough equipment or manpower. So like you just showed, we're getting people, nations that are coming in to help, including England. I just read about a half an hour ago, even England are offering to help.
Now, why would your country not have enough fire trucks and other things? You're not a poor country, okay? You got gas, you got oil, you're not you're fruit and flower to the world. Why? Are you just, again, not thinking, not preparing?
You know, when you think that our country is only the size of New Jersey, it's pretty small.
It is.
So you'd think that we would be covered. But what I'm reading, these fires are brutal. Number one, remember, we have 2 million Arabs that live in our borders. Mm-hmm. And if they decide that they want to go out and cause terror through arson, how can you contain that?
Right.
Number one. Number two, it just so happens that the weather right now, it's like a heat wave. It's about 100 degrees.
Okay, so they picked the right time to do this.
They picked the right time, and there's massive winds. Really, really bad. And on top of that, it happens to be our Independence Day. So they're rubbing wounds into our sores.
Okay, so this has all been planned.
It's all been planned. In fact, I was watching some videos by experts who investigate whether it's
they investigate arson.
They investigate arson, and they've found clearly that it is arson. And they even found people, young Arab people, with matches, with lighters, with kerosene on them. What more evidence do you need?
What more do you need?
But here's the other thing, Brandon, really, really important. These Palestinian people are saying, this is our land. This is our ancient land. Do they care for their land? No, they burn it to pieces, which is again proof that it's not really their land, Brandon, number one. And number two, they don't care about this world. They only care, according to their theology, they only care for the afterlife.
Yeah.
And that's why you American people who are watching this, you need to pay attention that this could be a form of terror in your borders.
Well,
in the
I think it
future.
already has been. I think some of the fires we saw in California, recently, and some of these other places, I think a lot of those were. Pat Boone was out saying, we played the clip, how hard would it be to take a towel and wrap it, and soak it in kerosene and then throw it to the wind for the fire, light it and throw it to the wind for the winds to catch it and spread. I mean, he was implying, and other people on the ground were saying, these things are popping up too quick, too fast, too broad to just be random. I mean, when you go online, I mean, here's a short video. I mean, this is threatening people's homes. I mean, full neighborhoods are being evacuated, correct?
Absolutely. Full neighborhoods. I have, where I live, there's dangers there. And the direction of the wind changes every few hours. And so it's blowing down to the south, and it's blowing towards Jerusalem, neighborhoods like Mevaseret Zion, and Netanya, Zikron Yaakov, the Sharon Plain. But apparently it's raging in at least 20 different places.
20.
And so when our firemen and when the help from overseas comes and extinguishes one, they've got other fires raging. Now, the winds, apparently, the winds haven't reached their height yet.
Sure.
It's going to get worse. However, Israel time tonight, which is about now, probably within the next few hours, it's supposed to die off. There's been a little bit of rain, which is unseasonal for us to have rain. And I can tell you this, that there's lots of people praying. So if you're listening and you want to offer up a prayer, please do. This is a very serious situation. And as Brandon was saying, this is probably our worst fire in our history. You know, when you think of all the trees, Israel has a policy since 1948 of planting trees. We have an annual day called Tu B'Shvat in honor of Abraham. In the book of Genesis, it says Abraham planted a tree. That's all it says. And he was putting down the promises of God, putting down the promises from heaven to earth, planting a tree, reminding us of God's covenant to you and your descendants. I give this land. So every year, Brandon, we do a tree planting day. And it's estimated since 1948, we've planted about 700 million trees. And I saw some video footage of some of those beautiful olive trees, pistachio trees, oak trees, burned to the core. Heartbreaking.
Well, you know, there are people on social media right now that are celebrating this.
That's the other thing.
I'm not going to show their. I'm not going to show their post, but they're saying this is great. You know that this is what happened when you. This is what happens when you oppress Islam and the Islamist people, and Allah's paying you back. And I mean, they're on there celebrating tonight.
Let the Zionists burn. Is what they're saying. And no,
you know, my concern too is that this will be this large, massive distraction now, right? Could be used to hide an invasion into Judea and Samaria, what is derogatorily called the West Bank, which, by the way, President Trump signed an executive order to stop calling it the West Bank in government documents, refer to it as Judea and Samaria. I think this could be a distraction, and I pray they don't use it, but you could have yourself another October 7th event with the fire as a distraction and cover to carry out an October 7th event, because you and I have been talking, and you know I showed my concern about Judea and Samaria a long time ago, many months ago. Remember me saying I'm very concerned? Because tell them what country is right up next to, what is Judea and Samaria butt up to? What country do they butt up to?
To Jordan.
Yeah, and what could happen there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's called the West Bank of Jordan. That's what it's the West Bank of. And we know that there are operatives inside of Jordan. There are, and beyond Jordan is Iran. And Iran are, they're running short of proxies. They're scrambling. Hamas are on their back foot, Brennan. They are almost at the place of being annihilated. They're running out of money. Their terrorists, their soldiers are not getting paid, and our soldiers are fighting. I want you to think, everyone, of our brave soldiers that have been fighting now for a year and a half. Many of them have hardly had any day's break. They haven't seen their families, their children. In fact, the army psychologists, Brennan, they say it's dangerous to bring them back for too long, because if they do, they will adjust, and the tension and the fear and the adrenaline will catch up on them, and all of that PTSD will catch up. So they deliberately keep them out in the fields so that they don't acclimatize. And by the way, I mentioned a few minutes ago that about tens and tens of thousands of soldiers have been called up, probably for Lebanon, for Syria, and for the West Bank. But here's the alarming news. Quite a number of those soldiers, a number of months ago, said, we will not fight again if we are called up.
Why?
There is rebellion in the ranks, because many of them are left-wing, many of them don't agree with the policy, and many of them, like the woke people and like the deep state, they want to first get our captives back.
Which I guess Benjamin Netanyahu's wife was caught on a hot mic saying there's only about 24 of them that are still alive?
Well, actually, someone said there's about 25 or something, and then she said less. And she shouldn't have. She was totally out of line.
So there's less than 25 alive.
And then I think the figure that came out was 24. But in other words, it's dwindling. It's getting low. But this is what our enemy's strategy is, to pit us against each other. And I just hope that when this call up happens, which has started, tens of thousands of soldiers, that was the report today, that we don't get rebellion in the ranks and some of these people who are threatening to refuse are top officers. This would be a disaster. Right now, it would be a disaster.
Well, here's another headline, Israel National News. Fire Services commander. This may be the largest fire in Israel's history. Exactly 1 week after a massive forest fire left over 10,000 dunums scorched, forest fire reunites in 5 locations, reignites in 5 locations, encouraged by strong winds, fire and rescue service calls in all forces nationally. And then, of course, we did find in the Jerusalem Post, if you read this article, I think it's this article here, it said that they had found cotton balls or cotton material, lighters, and when they arrested an arsonist.
And what the arsonists do, they soak the cotton balls in kerosene. They've got it in their pockets. It's easy, and then they just light it, and it's blazing.
Okay. So what's the latest news since we talked to you last out of Israel? Anything else?
The other big news, Brandon. We know about 8 months ago, Syria, basically the government collapsed. Assad fled. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I have reported on this, but I want to remind the public that it is believed, because if you remember what happened, when Assad fled, what was the first thing that happened? Israel went in and destroyed thousands of bombs, airstrips. And the report is, Brandon, that apparently the Mossad helped Assad get to safety, and part of the bargain of getting him to safety is he told us where all the ammunition dumps, where all the planes, where all the bombs were. So we were able to go into Syria and destroy all these bombs. Now, what we also did is we took over a number of neighborhoods and we protected a number of people called the Druze. Now, the Druze, if you remember about a year ago, when the Iranians fired rockets and they fired it on a little boy's soccer pitch. They killed about 14 young children, Druze children, playing soccer. Well, anyway, Israel has said, we will defend the Druze. So here's the latest big news, is the leader of HTS, the new regime in Syria.
The renamed ISIS.
The renamed ISIS or Al-Qaeda, correct. Yeah. Jolani, he is going after the Druze. And they've already slaughtered some. And Israel is saying, and this is what Bibi Netanyahu said, and I quote, we will not stand by and let our Druze brothers be attacked. That's pretty strong talk. And you know what? Kudos to Benjamin Netanyahu for doing that.
Well, this was the Druze that had their kids blown up on a
soccer pitch. That's right. Absolutely. But we have about 60, 70,000 Druze that live in our territories, and they are very loyal to the state of Israel. Some of the Druze are in our military. We had a general who was from the Druze community who lost his life. A general, that's a top officer. So we love the Druze love us, and we want to look after the Druze in Syria, but it's dragging us into a war that we don't want. We've got enough fronts, but that's what we're going to do, and we're going to defend the Druze as much as we can.
Pray for Israel, folks. Pray for their firefighters, their military, their leadership, their National Guard, because, again, it looks like they're experiencing their largest fire in Israel's history. And obviously, he's in studio with us tonight, and he's going to be back with us tomorrow on radio at 1 p.m. Central, 2 Eastern. Aaron will be back in the studio live. We'll give you an update on that then.
Brandon, can I just lastly say Happy Independence Day to Israel. 1948, after 2,000 years in exile, our nation was born again. And here we are 70-something years
77,
later.
is it?
77 years later. And we are, even though we've got our backs to the wall and we're fighting, we're winning, we're strong, and with God's help and with your prayers, we're going to win.
Amen to that. Amen. I'm glad he's in studio, folks. Brought to you by our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com. Worldviewfoundation.com. We just had him speaking to about 1,000 people, standing room only at our Ozarks, at our Waukesha rally. By the way, what'd you think of that?
I loved it. I love the atmosphere. I love the fact that people came from all around.
One family drove 18 hours.
Really? 18 hours.
From North Carolina, Logan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, if you're listening, thank you so much for supporting what we're doing. You're behind us. We're doing the hard work, but your support is a huge help. Thank you.
Indeed it is. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. We'll look forward to having you on radio tomorrow.
Thanks,
And
Brandon.
TV here at 1 p.m. Central, 2 Eastern. We'll be right back after this break.
True beauty isn't applied. It's nourished from within. Bella Grace Elixir, a luxurious, scientifically crafted blend designed to restore radiance, vitality, and strength at a cellular level. At the heart of Bella Grace Elixir lies cat's claw, a powerful herb from the Amazon known for its ability to control inflammation and protect collagen. With Verisol collagen peptides, it goes beyond the surface, stimulating your body's natural collagen production to reduce fine lines, improve skin elasticity, and promote real, visible change. Bella Grace Elixir doesn't stop at collagen. It includes astaxanthin, one of nature's most powerful antioxidants. 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, astaxanthin protects your skin from harmful UV rays and environmental stress, while locking in hydration and promoting a radiant, youthful glow. Experience the power of nature with Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Discover the science behind Bella Grace Elixir at melissahousebg.com. Read powerful testimonials from doctors and real customers who've experienced life-changing results, and explore other wellness products from Bella Grace. Bella Grace Elixir is more than just a product. It's a solution. Visit melissahousebg.com today.
All right, welcome back. Okay, before we go to Dr. Thorpe, you want to see something? Look at that. All right, we were out to dinner for my birthday on Saturday night, and there we go. There we go with my granddaughter. She loves to grab my glasses because my glasses pull apart in the middle, the little magnet things, and she loves to pull them apart. So she's reaching for my glasses, I'm sure. But anyway, we got a lot of great pictures. A lot of great pictures from our visit with her. Logan and I keep coming out of the studio, and we go to the house, and it's like, where is she? Where is she? So we're all a little homesick for her, my daughter, and for my granddaughter, but they'll be back again soon. There you go. My daughter sent me that today. Pretty cute, huh? You think I like this granddaughter? Yeah. This is actually being a grandparent's better than I thought it was going to be. You never understand really fully till you become one, right? I didn't. So it's a lot of fun. And if I could end up with 5 or 6 grandkids, that would be awesome. Some of you guys got a dozen and more and great grandkids. Some of you got 20 grandkids. I hear about it. And the great grandkids. My mother and father-in-law got a gazillion grandchildren, and they got several great grandchildren already. That sounds like a lot of fun to me. All right, before we go to Dr. Thorpe, remember, folks, again, we're brought to you by you. And why don't you go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. You know what else I'm going to do when I go to Washington, D.C.? I'm going to be taking my satellite phone. Where's my satellite phone? Where's Worldview Talk? There it is, Worldview Talk. I'm going to be taking my satellite phone with me. Because, again, if the power goes down like it did in Spain and Portugal and parts of France, I got to be able to communicate with some people. So I'm going to have my satellite phone with me. I have my bivvy with me as well, which allows me to text. Use my cell phone to send the text through that bivvy to a satellite, right? So again, we got bulletproof backpacks. We got cell phones that don't track you. They don't store your data. We got the solar generators. People love these. And you want to use that phone number because you want to make sure you get the right solar generator that you need. So I highly urge you use that number, 1-866-738-3224. Again, 1-866-738-3224. Okay? And again, this is a great organization. Tina is so good to us, the CEO of this company. She's so good to us. You can get the Faraday bags to protect your different devices as well. This is a great company. This woman, Tina, the CEO of this company, she's on here a lot. Let me just tell you, she believes in what we're doing here, and she's very generous with us. She's very generous with us as far as supporting us through, you're purchasing these. She gives us a generous percentage of each purchase. So when you do business with her, we get a generous percentage, and you're getting a great product with a great company, with a CEO that's the real deal. We really think highly of Tina and this whole team. So please do some business with them. Get a satellite phone, get a bivvy, get a bulletproof backpack, get a solar generator. WorldviewTalk.com, WorldviewTalk.com. I don't think there's anything else. Let's see. Is there anything else I got to show tonight, guys, before we go? Sponsors, let's see here. Oh, Squish for Life, glutathione. Glutathione, the Numi. The Numi contains glutathione to detox your cells. I told you guys this week I was feeling terrible Saturday night before I went out to dinner. Sunday, I put the Numi on my desk while I was studying for my Bible study, my church service on Sunday night. And I was swishing like on the hour, every hour for several hours. By Sunday night, I was feeling a lot better. By Monday morning, I was feeling a lot better. I do this every day. My glutathione, my Numi, and my Bella Grace. This is real. This glutathione has 162,000 studies behind it. Maybe 165,000 now. This is the real deal, too. And it's got science behind it. Detox your cells. Some studies show it may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. Not a joke either. This is not a joke. All right? SwishForLife.com. Joining me now is Dr. James Thorpe. He joins us. Doctor, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Brandon.
Let's go to this headline. NEJM gets a letter from the Department of Justice. It's the Fifth Journal to confirm receiving a letter asking about alleged bias. Now, I don't know what this is all about, but it sounds good. Can you tell me about it?
Well, Brandon, I think you should know what it's about because you and I have been talking about this for almost 2 years.
So let me guess, since I haven't read the article, it's probably alleged bias related to them not putting out the truth about the COVID shot and what it's been doing to people, right?
Well, I think that's definitely part of it. The DOJ apparently served the letter to 3 journals that's outlined in that MedPage Today article. Now, that MedPage Today talks about the New England Journal of Medicine, also talks about another major journal, and it also talks about another major journal, which is called our Green Journal, or Obstetrics and Gynecology. So there's 2 other journals that apparently they sent these letters out to. And it's about time because, as we know, you and I have been talking about this, and I've been, my research colleagues, including myself and many others, just published on this last year. And we've been blasting this out for 3 or 4 years. The bias, most notably in our article last year that's published, we busted the CDC Rochelle Walensky and the CDC Tom Shimabukuro in a racket, a money laundering operation, buying off the New England Journal of Medicine. And that would be the editor-in-chief who's quoted there. His name is Eric Rubin. And the other editor, the managing editor, one of the main editors, whose name is Stephen Morrissey. So they were caught really with their pants down. They were, CDC was sending them money And they were, we believe, sending them money to push fraudulent data and fraudulent threats to pregnant women to take the vaccine. And this occurred on the online edition of the New England Journal of Medicine on April 21st, 2021.
And I noticed here, it says here they received a letter from Edward Martin Jr., the interim attorney for Washington, D.C., asking 6 questions, largely about alleged bias in the decision to publish unspecified content. Well, Ed Martin is a friend of the program. He has been in our studio. He has guest hosted one of our shows on our network about 50 times. And I like Ed. He's a great attorney, a great constitutionalist. And may I ask our audience, if you're so inclined, call your U.S. Senator's office. Look up the phone number for Capitol Hill switchboard. Politely call your U.S. Senator. Ask them to confirm Ed Martin as the U.S. District Attorney for Washington, D.C. It's as vital, folks. It really is. It's vital that you call your 2 U.S. Senators. Ask them to confirm Ed Martin. Please put a Post-it note on your refrigerator, whatever you got to do, to remind yourself to do that on Thursday. Do you know Ed Martin? Thorpe? And there's the number of Capitol Hill right there, 202-224-3121. Ask him, please confirm Ed Martin as U.S. District Attorney for Washington, D.C. Do you know Mr. Martin, James?
I do not know Mr. Edward Martin, and I'm so impressed that you do and that he's been on your program.
In the studio.
That's incredible.
Been in the studio here, actually hosted one of our shows, sitting in for Tamara Scott, probably about, 40 or 50 times on our network? Yeah. We've known who he is.
What's his focus?
Is what?
What's his focus?
Constitution. The Constitution, liberty, freedom, religious liberty. You remember Phyllis Schlafly? He worked with Phyllis Schlafly for years.
Yes.
What's that? He ran Phyllis Schlafly Eagles too. He was the president of it. So yeah, he can talk about anything related to liberty, freedom, the Constitution. He's a patriot. He's a strong person of faith. Yeah. So he sent them a letter. Tell me what your thoughts are. He sent them a letter asking them 6 questions about their bias. What do you think about that?
I think it's incredible, and I think that he needs to get Kash Patel involved, because I believe, it's my opinion, that this between the pharmaceutical company, between Rochelle Walensky and Tom Shimabukuro, and between the New England Journal of Medicine, there's money laundering operation. I believe there's conspiracy. I believe there's racketeering. I believe that there's fraud. I believe that there's an intent to fraud. And I also believe that there's mass assault and battery and en masse murder.
Wow.
Listen, that one particular article, the one online journal on April 21st, 2021, had 2 articles separately, both pushing the COVID-19 vaccines in pregnant women. I believe that this cartel of Rochelle Walensky, Tom Shimabukuro of the CDC, and the 2 aforementioned editors of the New England Journal of Medicine, the editor-in-chief, Eric Rubin, and the managing editor, Richard Marcy, I believe, it's my opinion, that they're responsible for killing and injuring millions of pregnant women, preborns, and newborns globally. Remember, as America goes, especially in regards to OBGYN, so goes the rest of the world. And they push this blatantly false narrative. They convinced pregnant women by falsification and fraudulent data that the COVID-19 vaccine was safe and effective and necessary in pregnant women, and that if pregnant women didn't take it, that they would put their lives at risk, their preborns and newborns' lives at risk, when they knew the complete opposite was true.
Look at this headline here. Tell me about this. This is from Preprints. Are COVID-19 vaccines and pregnancy as safe and effective as the U.S. government, medical organizations, and pharmaceutical industry claims? Part 2. Oh, wait a minute. Look at that. We got on here Maggie Thorpe. I think that's an attorney that happens to also be married to this guy right here in the article I'm highlighting, Dr. James Thorpe, the first name. Oh, look at that, Peter McCullough. I wish I could highlight them separately, but I can't, but there you go. So where was this published? On preprints?
This is published on preprint, and it's been accepted for publication, peer-reviewed publication. That's part 2. Part 1 was published in the earlier in this year. But if you go to that article, please go to that article and go all the way down to figure 1, way down at the end. And I want to, if you can pull figure 1 up, there it is. Okay, if you can blow that up. Okay, look at there. There's the money laundering money laundering operation that I believe is criminal, and I believe there's a quid pro quo, and I believe that Rochelle Walensky paid. And look at how they tried to do it, Brennan. You got the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and you have $67 million transferred beginning July 1st, 2019. And look at how they do it. Of course, they send it to the Massachusetts Department of Health, and then the Massachusetts Department of Health sends it to the Massachusetts Medical Society. And oh, by the way, the Massachusetts Medical Society owns the New England Journal of Medicine. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, isn't that interesting? Is anyone talking about holding hearings on this, like Ron Johnson or anybody?
You know, it's been in the news for the last month that Senator Ron Johnson is going after them, Tom Shimabukuro.
Well, good for him. All right, tell me what you make of this. Our buddy Steve Kirsch has a new article out today. New Florida brand differential study shows the Pfizer vaccine killed over 470,000 Americans. Subheadline: this stunning brand comparison study shows that Pfizer shots increased your risk of death by at least 36%. Vaccines are never supposed to increase your risk of death. 470,000 Americans. Okay, I'm glad for this report. I'm glad for this study. I know it's just focusing on Pfizer, but the number is much higher than that, isn't it?
I believe the number is much higher than that. I believe that the number is much closer to 1 million that have been killed. And, you know, by the way, Dr. Peter Breggin feels that 1 million is underestimated. I think that, as my recollection, Dr. Breggin believes it's closer to $2 million.
2 million lives.
2 million lives that have been killed.
Just in America. Just in America.
In America. Just America.
Only America.
Now, remember that, you know, in our publications, I've documented in multiple peer-reviewed publications straight from Pfizer, straight from the 5.3.6 post-marketing report, legally mandated, that was available on February 28th, 2021. That what's interesting about that report on page 7, there are 42,086 casualties. Included in that casualties is 1,223 dead.
Wow.
And when you look at that, you can easily calculate an injure to kill ratio of 33.4, right? So in other words, what does that mean? That means for every person that you've killed, you've injured, multiply that by 33.4. So if there's 1 million Americans killed, then you're looking at 33,400,000 Americans injured. Now, some of those injuries are, you know, not serious, but there's a large proportion of those that are very, very serious. Like, for example, Dr. Joel Walskog, one of the co-founders of React 19, that ended his career as an orthopedic surgeon because of severe transverse myelitis. And there's other major neurological, encephalitis, immunological, cardiac, blood clot, autoimmune disease, and I could go on and on and on. Many of these are life-threatening, life-changing, causing permanent dependence on nursing care for the rest of the lives of these individuals, these victims.
And tell me on two topics, bird flu and then Governor Cuomo of New York with the nursing home deaths. What do you make of all the nursing home deaths in New York during COVID, during the lockdown and all that period?
Well, I think it's pretty clear, in my opinion, that this was planned. And this was planned because Cuomo and the rest of the progressive liberals of New York, not all of them, but a huge proportion that run that city and run the state, they celebrate death. They're a death cult. Now, remember when they made the legislation whereby it became legal for them to kill a baby after birth? Remember that?
Yes.
And remember the celebration that they had? They lit up all the bridges in New York City. This is a cultic, a death cult. This is an ideology of death. This is how they feel. And you know, older people, especially my generation, you know, we're becoming more of a burden to society, baby boomers. So the more of us baby boomers that they can kill, and elderly, because they're nothing but sacrifice. You know, they cost a lot to take care of, and they're of no societal benefit. So let's just kill them. Let's constrain them to these high-risk areas. Let's let the COVID go rampant in these old folks' homes in New York City, so we can kill off these bloodsuckers that are just sapping money from our state. And that appears to be what was done.
Let me go to bird flu real quick. The Daily Mail had an article. Sometimes they have good articles, sometimes they have bad articles. I mean, sometimes they just hype. They had a big article the other day talking about, you know, bird flu now, and this is the problem. You might want to get ready for the next pandemic or pandemic, and then we're making a big deal out of it. I guess it's, I don't know, maybe the clickbait, I don't know. Are they giving up on bird flu, or do you still see this as something they're pushing for? Particularly if they can destroy our food supply. Are they still pushing for that too?
No, they're looking to destroy our food supply. They, as you know, they've been looking to destroy our country since Obama was elected, or Barry, whatever his name is. But yeah, he, as you know, he was a candidate that was put in by the deep state to destroy our country and take our country down, and he did a pretty good job. He did a really pretty good job, and of course he ran a third term too, which was the last term, I believe, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He was calling the shots. But I think the bird flu clearly has been manufactured. It's been proven that it's been gain of function, just like SARS-CoV was. And, you know, it is getting to become a potential threat. It's now jumped, you know, over 40 species of mammal. It's never been transmitted from human to human yet. But if it does, or when it does, that could be a major problem. Of course, they're using it. You never let, you know, a disaster go to waste, right?
Right.
That's the way the progressive liberals think. So the pharmaceutical companies and the government now what are we doing? We're creating a bird flu vaccine, and we're, you know, injecting, you know, going to push it in all the animals. Of course, we're culling all of the chickens, and that is counterproductive to cull all the chickens, because that's exactly how natural immunity works. That's how God made our immune systems. When you have a few very ill chickens from H5N1, let the rest of them be exposed. You know, yes, cull the ones that are sick, but let the rest of them that are exposed survive. That's called herd natural immunity.
Yep. Yep.
They don't need to be killed, and they don't need to be vaccinated.
I talked to a family member today in another state whose daughter-in-law is really quite sick, been really struggling, had asthma as a kid, but all of a sudden now, after years and years, asthma's come back apparently, had to go to the hospital a couple times now. And she was asking me, what do you think this is about? And I said, did they get the shot? She said, no. And I said, have they been around people with the shot that could be shedding on them? Well, maybe, but they've had COVID a few times. And now it seems as though her lungs are giving her trouble. And really, she's not had any asthma problems since a child. And she's, in her 30s now. So they're like, what's going on here? I said, well, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I would tell you, if I were you, I would get online. I would get me some ivermectin. I'd get me some zinc. I'd try to be knocking out these spike proteins. I'd be going to worldviewhealthcare.com, and Dr. McCullough has things to help clean out the spike proteins. She needs, particularly if she's had COVID a few times, it sounds like she maybe have had it recently, as every time we get COVID, these doctors tell me we're getting spike proteins, and none of this is good for any of us. So again, I'm not a doctor, but I'm just telling you, she asked me, and I just told her I would be getting ivermectin and zinc and the spike, the clean out spike protein stuff from worldviewhealthcare.com at the wellness company. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that it would be really interesting for patients in this situation to obtain the quantitative anti-spike antibody. And this is commercially available in both of the main labs, all the labs. It is in LabCorp, and it is it's also in the other laboratories. So, as a patient, as an individual, without going through a doctor, without a doctor's order, you can go to a private portal. I personally recommend to my patients Ulta, ULTA labtest.com. And if you go to ultalabtest.com, you can order your own labs at a fraction of the cost it'll cost you in a doctor's office or a hospital. And it's really quite cheap.
Will you be able to read them? Will you know what you're reading when you get them, or what do you have to do then?
No, you'll have to have somebody help you interpret them. But it's fairly simple. If you have a level, you can order this quantitative anti-spike protein antibody, and if that correlates with the amount of spike in your blood. And if many individuals, the Yale study showed that that over 700 days after the vaccine, there's still really high circulating antibody. And some of my injured COVID-19 vaccine injured patients that I know well, several of them have had positive spike protein in their body for over 4 years. Woo. Over 4 years after the last vaccine. So these are the individuals that I think, and by the way, it's the spike protein, which is the bioweapon. I believe that's doing the lion's share of the damage, death, and destruction in my pregnant women and in all people. It's a bioweapon. It's highly inflammatory. And you
obviously, do you recommend the Ultimate Spike Detox at the wellness company, obviously?
Yes, in those individuals, I think the McCullough Ultimate Spike Detox is extremely valuable. And I don't know of any other product that has the science behind it. Admittedly, we don't have a randomized double-blinded placebo-controlled trial, but neither do any of the vaccines, by the way, not a one of them on a schedule. But we do have good observational data suggesting that it enhances the clearance of the spike protein. Dr. McCullough has amassed some pretty impressive data in this regard. So yes, this Ultimate Spike Detox has not only does it have a much larger dose of nattokinase in it, but it's also got bromelain in it, curcumin, and other remedies that we believe are extremely helpful. Now, as an OBGYN doctor and a high-risk OB doctor, I do have to put a caveat in there. I do don't take this if you're known to be pregnant. Now, if you're trying to get pregnant, I have no problem with you taking this. You should take it if your spike levels are high. But after you conceive, and it's fine to conceive on it, shortly thereafter, or whether if it's a month or two, I don't think that's a problem. But I think you should stop it during pregnancy because there's not enough safety data regarding these natural substances in pregnancy. And just remember, just because they're natural doesn't necessarily mean they're safe in pregnancy.
Yeah, great point. If you want to follow Dr. Thorpe, there it is, at J.A. Thorpe, MFM, at JATHORP, MFM, or freedomintruth.substack.com. freedomintruth.substack.com. As always, Dr. Thorpe, thanks for making time for us.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all you do, Brennan.
Well, it's a team effort, and we're together in this. And the two docs, you and Dr. Moon, airs on what time and day, Logan? Airs on Saturday at 4 p.m. Central, Sunday at 11 a.m. Central. So there you go, the two docs.
And Brandon, just a heads up, we're doing the pre-record tonight. Excellent. And we're having, I don't know if you know this, but my Santa Rosa County, where I live in Gulf Breeze, Florida, there's an attorney there. And there's also Dr. Joe Sansone, an attorney from Gulf Breeze, Florida. They've gotten on our county healthcare, and we've essentially banned the shot.
That's
in our
awesome.
county. And so we're interviewing them, and they'll be on this upcoming weekend.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you announced that. So everybody should be watching and finding it live streamed or on demand later at worldviewtube.com. J.A. Thorpe, MFM on X, or freedomintruth.substack.com. Thank you, Dr. Thorpe.
And one more, it's drjathorp.com. Dr. drjathorp.com is my personal website, and that should be completed under construction.
Okay, good. And then they can get your book there as well.
That's right. Sacrifice: How the Deadliest Vaccine in History Targeted the Most Vulnerable.
Wow. Dr. Thorpe, as always, we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Brenna.
Dr. Thorpe, checking in, folks. Aren't you glad he's on our team? And remember, he's one of the hosts of The Two Docs that airs right here on Worldview 2. All right, guys, before we call it a night, please go right now, worldviewfoundation.com. Roll the music. Go there right now, won't you guys, please? worldviewfoundation.com. Make a contribution. Help us cover the cost of this trip. We got to get our normal support in here for the month, but we also have to cover this trip where we're going to go out there and get a lot of great interviews and footage and stuff to be able to bring to you live. Some of it taped. Some of it is going to be footage we bring to you after the fact. We make little documentaries about historical sites you're going to love. And I'm excited to tell you about some of them. So help us cover the price of this project so we can go do more. Do more. Okay? Go now, will you, please? Can you do 250, 500, 1,000? Some of you can. If you can, great. If you can't, don't worry. Just pray for us, will you? Pray for our safety, good weather, protection, all of that. Providential doors to open even yet in the final moments and days we're there. So check it out, worldviewfoundation.com. May God save America. Take care.
What if there was a product that could help you control cravings, burn more fat, boost your metabolism, promote healthy blood glucose levels, lower inflammation, optimize insulin sensitivity, support healthy blood lipid levels, and support healthy blood pressure? Introducing Bellatrim.
My wife has been taking Bellatrim now, and she said, Brandon, we've really got to promote this because people don't understand this isn't just about a comprehensive weight management. It will help regulate your blood glucose levels. It will lower bad cholesterol. Overall, it's good for your cardiac health. And she said there's a lot of science behind this.
G'day, I'm Dr. Mark Muller for Bella Grace, and I'd like to have a chat with you about Bellatrim, our comprehensive weight management product. Now, most people early on will register a reduction in cravings associated with Bellatrim. How does it do that? Well, it does it by changing the levels of hormones that are associated with either hunger or satiety. It lowers the levels of ghrelin, a hunger hormone, and it raises the levels of GLP-1, the satiety hormone. There is an absolutely fascinating action on a metabolic switch called AMP kinase, AMPK. AMPK is associated with the preferential burning of fat as a metabolic fuel. And as a result, you have a reduction in visceral fat and reduction in waist circumference. It also helps regulate blood glucose. Blood glucose is a huge factor in weight management. It also improves your microbiome. We do that by several ways. One, there's an ingredient in there that stimulates greater diversity. And the other one is prebiotics, FOS and GOS, that help feed the good bacteria, gentrify your microbiome. So, Bellatrim, comprehensive. Enjoy it.
To learn more about Bellatrim and other Bella Grace products, visit melissahousebg.com.
July 6, 2005. This is Tom Harper. Man figures plankton stopped his rare cancer. We got more of a response from this from our viewers than anything else you and I have ever discussed.
Tom Harper, 20 years ago, he had mesothelioma, deadly lung cancer, was given weeks to live, and he just intuitively started to eat the phytoplankton out of his fish tanks because he fed the phytoplankton to his shellfish. He was a shellfish farmer. And when he went in for the surgery, the surgeon came out of the operating room and told his family, I have not ever seen anything like it. The cancer is benign, and Tom Harper lived for years. He retired in Hawaii. We're not making any claim.
Here he is in his own words.
Started on a daily routine of just taking a bit of paste, putting it in my mouth, and wash it down with a drink of water. Within about 10 to 15 days, here I am, less pain in my back. I knew that something was going on, so I just kept eating half a teaspoon of this paste a day. I was booked to go for surgery in Victoria where they were going to do what they call a talc treatment. They went in there to have a look, saw something they never seen before, took 11 sites, sent them away for biopsy. I got the news back. Everything was benign. They just did not know what to make of it. Everything was absolutely clean. And I've tried dieting all my life because I'm a diabetic. If it's a coincidence or not, I don't know. My blood sugar started dropping. My weight started falling off. Here I am, no longer requiring insulin, and I was taking 88 units a day of insulin. I can eat just about what I want in moderation, and I have no elevated sugar levels, and I feel fabulous.
People, you hear the word cancer, and they want you to be instilled with fear. Cancer is nothing but a profound failure of the immune system. And what happened with Tom Harper is the phytoplankton is microscopic. It's God's microscopic food. And the Gadatiana is the most nutritionally comprehensive strain phytoplankton in the world. David Hunter studied phytoplankton for 20 years because he worked for Tom Harper and he was there in person and witnessed Tom's recovery. It's about getting pure nutrition inside your cells. And what happens, your body balances again or goes back to homeostasis. And when your body is pH balanced or in homeostasis, disease can't grow. It is literally microscopic, pure single cell plant food with protein and omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, with amino acids and vitamins and minerals. 1 scoop a day. There's 90 billion plant cells in here just for everyday nutrition and energy and, cognitive support, because this is God's pure nutrition.
Go to melissahousegpa.com today. Discover the science and learn more about the wonderful benefits of Gadatana phytoplankton. That's melissahousegpa.com. melissahousegpa.com.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
And welcome. Glad you are with us. We're going to be joined by Colonel Rob Manus here in one moment. Pakistan and India. I know Pakistan has nuclear weapons. I think India does too. Pakistan and India might be on the verge of war. What does that mean for the rest of us? And Mark Levin, I saw a tweet from him today. Mark Levin apparently he's in Israel, and he's saying that Iran must never get the nuclear weapon. Mark. Hello, Mark. Mark, either you know they have the bomb and you're lying, or you are really more ignorant than I thought you were. Because you used to interview Peter Pry. That was after we interviewed him, and I was producing his radio show and his TV show. And then you picked him up, which is really becoming quite common, Logan. We did the truckers thing, right? And the Shannon with the American Truckers said, Brandon, you're the first national outlet to pick us up and carry this. He said it on the air for those who doubt. We're not bragging. We're just simply telling you, folks, we are out here trying to follow the trends and keep you abreast on the cutting edge. And that means we work 7 days a week. We put in super long hours, and I'm not complaining, and I'm not a victim. I love my work. I'm just telling you, we work really hard. We love our work. We take it seriously. We want to be the best we can be at it. This is not something we just phone it in. This is not rip and read off a teletype. I know a lot of you have no idea what a teletype is, but if you do, you're an older person like me or a middle-aged person like me. We work very hard at this, and Logan's playing with one of his new cameras. Is that one of the new cameras? Yeah, can you pull it off? We don't need to go quite that close up to the old man's face. They're going to see every blemish I got. Yes. So I got to go to that too. Tom Littleton as well. So anywho, I think Mark Levin knows they have the bomb, because if he interviewed Peter Pry like we did, and we produced his radio show TV show, then surely Peter and him had some conversations off the air, if not on the air. And Peter Pry believed that Iran had the bomb a long time ago. So the question isn't, Mark Levin, hey, let's go to war so we can stop Iran from getting the bomb, as you're saying, which I don't think you have any sons that are draft age, do you, Mark Levin? I love it how all these guys are wanting to go to war. Let's go to war. How many young men are in your family that are eligible for the draft, Mark? And isn't it interesting, all these guys who want to do this, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, they all work for faux news, which I think is a mouthpiece of the CIA. Isn't that interesting? Maybe that's what it takes to get on Fox News, is to be a mouthpiece for the government's corporate military-industrial complex war machine. So Mark Levin is, I see, in Israel, and he wants us to strike Iran before they get the weapon. Well, hello, they got it. The question is how many? So now what's going to be your excuse once you realize this, Mark, or you already do know this and you're not being honest? What is going to be your reason now for going to war? Really frustrating, is it not? All right, we're going to go to Colonel Rob Manus, but first we got to get to Tom Littleton. Tom joins us for a quick hit on a brand new article over at 30 Pieces of Silver. All right, let's go to Colonel Manus first then. All right, let's go to Colonel Rob Manus. Go to him first. On the first 100 days of the Trump administration, they had a cabinet meeting today. Logan said, see, now we got press passes for all next week. Logan said, Dad, you do realize if we were there right now, we'd be in that room filming. We could be in there filming. And I said, I think so. That's the whole purpose. You get a media press pass for the week, right? So he's like, what do you think is going to be going on when we're there? I'm like, I have no idea. So this should be very interesting. But I do know that in addition to some White House coverage we'll do. We're going to be also hitting some very interesting historical sites and producing some short form and longer form documentaries on historical things that all of you will get to see and enjoy. So I'm not telling you a lot because I don't want anyone messing with us while we're out there. So I'm not telling every location we're going. But you guys are going to come back and go, that a boy, Brandon.